G'day, welcome to Deep and Meaningfuls with Furzey. On this episode of the pod, I'm chatting with Jacob O'Neill. Jacob is a men's coach. He has been a bit of a psychedelic explorer in his time, and he is the founder of a 4-day immersive event called The Gathering of Men. So as you can imagine, we talk about a lot of man stuff in this podcast, working towards what it means to embody being a good and strong man and some of the obstacles that stand in the way of that. Jacob also shares some amazing psychedelic stories from his adventures with the cactus Wachuma. And Jacob's also about to become a dad. So we discuss the anticipation of impending offspring and some of the ups and downs of dad life. I really love this chat. Jacob's got a lot of wisdom to pass on, so I hope you enjoy it. So if you're digging the pod, I'd love to ask a favour. If you could leave me a rating and review and share it on your socials, I'd really appreciate it. Now, here is Jacob O'Neill.
Do you want hat on or hat off? What's better?
It's probably going to be better to take it off.
Yep. We can look
Be bald brothers.
like looking in a mirror.
Yeah. How good's Mal pattern baldness, eh?
Yeah.
Man, I saw some photos of me the other day. Someone sent me a link to these photos because back when I was 18, I was on Home and Away. And I did.
Okay.
Yeah. And so someone had sent me this article from Nickelodeon.
Really?
This thing that we did, it was a shoot for, they slimed us.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
And it was, and it was me and some of the other cast. And there's me covered in green slime. But I was looking at myself at 19. I was like, man, I was going bald at 19. I was receding up at 19. And yeah, it's
a real thing, hey. And it was crazy. Once I shaved my head, everything got better.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've cheated though. I got a tattue.
Oh,
See,
okay.
so I look like I've got a better hairline than I do.
I was going to say, you look soft. I was going to say, yours looks really good.
A mate said to me the other day, a while ago, he goes, man, your hair, you've got a pretty strong hairline. I was like, thanks, man. Yeah. I can't lie about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and I remember one of the directors on set said to me one time, I was 19, and he goes, oh, you got a little bald patch growing at the back there, and I was like,
dude, not at 19.
Whoa.
Don't be saying that.
Yeah, and I knew it was going to happen because my dad's as bald as they come, and I've always been fine with it. But it's just in the entertainment industry side of things, it's like there's no room for bald men.
No,
there's not unless as in the acting world, the only auditions that I get now, the only opportunities that come to me are thugs, or military guys.
Perfect, yeah. Jason Statham energy.
Statham. Well, he's been good, like because he's kind of flown the flag for us baldies.
Yeah.
I think it happens to like male pattern baldness happens to in like at least 35% of men.
It's crazy. I'm look at it through a mythological lens now, and I look at it through kind of archetypal journeys and watching Vikings and seeing what happens with the Native American Indians. A lot of the time, like your hair is something that like over time you shave and it gets shorter and shorter. And you're watching like Vikings, I looked and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can see the long hair is of the youth, and then as you get older, you cut it, and then you end up bald. And it's almost like these signs of chapters of manhood that I'm now claiming that's how it feels for me. I'm probably a few chapters early.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was 60, it might have been okay.
Sure,
but
yeah. Well, and I think that's the social stigma is that you have to be of a certain age.
Yeah.
But it's the irony is that there's this kind of attitude around it where I don't know if you felt this, but I felt like people would say, yeah, I just kind of felt like I shouldn't be going bald. It's not very manly. But yet the people who go bald are men.
Yeah.
Men are who goes bald.
Yeah.
I mean, some very, very few women do, and it's because of a completely different problem. So if you're someone who's going bald, it's because you're a man,
It's a good sign.
There's nothing and it's actually because of an excess of a certain type of testosterone that accumulates in your scalp. Dihydrotestosterone. And so it's like it's because I'm too masculine. That's what it is.
I've got too much man in me.
Yeah. It was. I remember coming to terms with it, and exactly the same as you. As soon as I was like, just shave your fucking head, man. As soon as I did it, it's such a liberating thing.
Oh. I was no longer hiding something for me, bro. The same thing. I went home. I said, "Mum, just because my mum's a hairdresser." And I said, "Just shave it." She's like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Mum, I don't want you to shave it or I'm going to go and shave it myself. So we just shaved it and I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
From like, I had long hair and I was like pulling it back and I was just trying so hard to, and it's the irony is that, I've got all of my mates have like locks, like incredible hair.
Sure. Yeah.
I've got two bros, they're brothers and they're close mates and they've got, one's got long blonde hair, one's got long, luscious black hair. I just look at them both and I'm just like, damn. But the minute that I was like owned it and accepted it, all of the charge, all of the fear, all of the insecurities just left, and then I could actually just like breathe and be who I was, and then it wasn't a problem.
Yes, it's. I went through the same thing, and I think that you learn how much time you spend on your hair when you don't have it.
Yeah,
like I'd catch myself in a reflection. And there'd be this instinct to just do a little fix up of my hair, and it's amazing how many times you would go, oh, wow, how often was I doing that?
Yeah.
And now get a razor in the shower every 3 days and that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, this is how my noggin looks. This is how we're going.
Yeah.
And away we go.
Yeah, that's even like to the point where I was like, I used to have all different clothes and all this different stuff, and now like I wear what I wear.
Yes.
And I like what I wear and that's it.
I've been the same. Yeah. I went through a phase where I did the Steve Jobs thing and I only wore black.
Yeah.
I didn't wear a black polo neck and jeans, but I only wore black clothes. Yeah. I was talking to someone who was right into Buddhism and they were telling me about how the Buddhists, I believe they only have 2 outfits of the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's part of their, now I could be completely getting this wrong, so if anyone knows, forgive me. But what I was told is that they have 2 of the same outfit, and when one of them's dirty, they are wearing the other one, and that's not something they need to be spending their time and energy on. They take care of their clothing. This is their clothing. This is what they wear, and they're on a spiritual pursuit.
Yeah,
and there was something that just really resonated with me at the time. I thought, cool, I'm going to not worry about. I don't have any hair, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to not worry about my clothes. This is what I wear, and I'm going to get on with. I was meditating a lot at the time, and it was an interesting little trip. My wife didn't like it very much. She found it pretty boring, and
it's very like it's a masculine thing to create as much space.
Yes,
and that's we want to create space. That's what and because like that's mainly what I teach men on is relationships.
Sure.
That's everything that in and of itself is creating space. For a woman, she wants to create connection. She wants to create like life. Whereas for men, we want to create space. Like for me, the most powerful most powerful experiences are where I'm in a space of no demand, where there's nothing that needs me, where there's no decisions to be made and I can just exist in the beingness. Meditation. Meg wants to exist like intertwined and in rapture and delight and pleasure, and the feminine wants to know itself through experience, and the masculine wants to know itself through space, through awareness. And it is that makes sense as to why as men we're trying to fix problems. Always
there's a problem, let's fix it so it's done.
Yes.
And as women, women typically want to explore problems.
Yes.
They like to
they
want to talk about it. They want to feel it. They want to
Why am I feeling this way about the problem? It's like let's fix the problem so we don't have to worry about that feeling.
that dance is a fun one, isn't it?
And it's about tempering it right. Like it's not about being one or the other. It's about learning how to have range, and that's my biggest challenge. Always is making sure that I am not too far one way or too far the other way.
Yeah.
And I've been in the only be in the feeling and be deeply in the feminine world, and that I end up like a swamp. There's nothing, there's no structure, there's no barrier, there's no flow. I'm just sort of existing in the messiness of my own emotions. And then I've been like a dam where I've everything's contained and rigid and structured, overly structured, and there's no flow, but I'm whatever is in that container is really well looked after, but there's no newness and there's no giving and receiving. And that's sort of where I come back into, and nature's my greatest teacher is like, how can I be like the river? How can I be like the river where there is flow, there is structure, there is life, and there is direction, there is containment, but there's also this almost like this intuitive movement that has direction. And that's kind of the balance that I'm trying to find in all areas of my life, whether it's work, relationship, or my own personal practice. Because it's easy to go, like you said, the Steve Jobs route and just become so structured and analytical, and that's great. However, sometimes it is fun to just, throw on a different colored shirt. Sometimes it's fun to be a little bit out there. Sometimes it's fun to bring through a new texture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too much is too much.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that means. There's and finding you. I think you kind of have to go there to figure out. Oh, I've gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this, and I really admire that. I agree with you. I think that I've been through the same kind of thing, trying to explore and discover myself, which I think is what a lot of this conversation is going to be about. It's that endless journey of self-discovery. And when you intentionally embark upon it, you go down these paths of, you know what, I'm going to try that. Let's see how that feels. What happens if I do that? And it's only until, I don't know about you, but for me, a fair bit after I've gone too far when I realised, I've gone too far. I gotta pull this back, because now I'm starting to notice how it's not working for me in my life.
Massively, man. And I'm grateful enough to have a wife that is able to call me back. So I'm about to sneeze. Call me back when I do go too far. I've got brothers in my life that call me back when I'm either burning too brightly or my fire's put out. I've got a family that loves me and continues to push all my buttons and remind me that I'm not a guru and that I've still got stuff to work on.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe
family's great at that, aren't they?
Oh, they're
and they
they're
don't even know they're
impeccable.
doing it.
Yeah, they're so good at it. They don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah.
And the piece for me is I think the easy option is to go and be the monk.
Sure.
And sit on the mountaintop in the cave and meditate, wear two outfits and eat rice and beans. That's the easy option.
So you reckon that's a bit of a cop-out?
I believe that it's the cop-out. In the hero's journey, there's 17 stages, and it's too much to go into now, but there's one stage where you go into the inmost cave, and that's where you face your darkest shadow. And you have to go in there alone, and you can't take anything or anyone with you. And that's where you face off with the part of you that you've yet to really, really meet. And accept. And everyone has this. Everyone has this. There's no man that is immune to that. That actually isn't the hardest part of the journey. Because once you face off with that, you hit this beautiful place of liberation. You faced off with the thing that you thought you'd never be able to meet. And once you do that, you experience liberation. You experience a sense of freedom, because you're now no longer running from that shadow or hiding that shadow from the world. But then it's actually coming back to the world that's the hard bit.
Because the world hasn't changed.
Because the world hasn't changed. But you're coming back as this more deeply embodied version of yourself. And this has happened to me every single time I go on a retreat, or I go and sit ceremony, or I go and do an experience where I sort of face off with the parts of me that I'm resisting. When I come back to the world's still doing what the world's doing, but I'm changed. So of course I'm going to have to hold this new depth amongst what Don Miguel Ruiz, he wrote the book The Four Agreements. I don't know.
Man, that book has changed my life.
Yeah, so he also wrote another really good book called The Five Levels of Attachment. It's a great follow-up if you're keen to read it.
I still haven't gotten through The Four Agreements. It's so simple, but it is so deep. I sit there and I'll read one page 15 times. I'm like, whoa.
Simple is best. That's why I love him.
Yeah.
But he calls it in their lineage, their medicine lineage and their shamanic lineages, they call it.
Where's he from? He's South American.
Yes, he calls it the matote, which is the marketplace. It's the noise of the marketplace of life.
That's right.
The monk that sits in his tower or sits in his cave and meditates, there isn't the sound of screaming kids. There isn't the person cutting you off in traffic. There isn't the electricity bill that arrives and it's an extra $400.
It's much easier to sit in silence when you've got no interruptions.
Of course.
That's an interesting,
Yeah, and we see this playing out, and I speak with compassion, but also a level of not authority, but a level of assertiveness. There's a lot of men who are trying to escape the matrix because they're too scared to stay in it and help it evolve from within. Because where does change occur? Within. It comes from within. Do you want to
be Neo? Do you want to be Cypher?
Yeah.
You want to escape and wow.
So that's the biggest thing. Guys are like, I'm going to escape the matrix. I'm like, where does change happen, bro? He's like, well, from within. I'm like, okay, so where are we going to change the matrix?
Yeah, you can't do it from.
Can't do it
you
from
can't
out.
run away.
Yeah,
and
you
do it
can't
from
run
outside.
away. You can go and create your new earth. I'm happy with this earth that we've got, and I want to nurture her and help her evolve and grow. And from that, all of us will evolve and grow. But I'm not gonna. I will go to the cave and I will meditate. But when the knock from my soul goes, "Hey, bro, it's time to head back," I'll go back.
I've often thought about that. The folks who will literally go into a cave and meditate, and those people who spend, days and weeks and months of their life in meditation. And it's alluring to think about the potential places that you may be able to get to when you're doing that. Like I've had some pretty trippy experiences doing some meditations. I almost joined what I think probably turned into a cult when I was living in LA.
Hell yeah.
This meditation kind of thing. And I got out before it got to that because it started to get a little funky. But the guy that was driving the bus, there was something very interesting about him. There's something dark about him, but there was also something very intriguing. And I had some experiences in doing open eye meditation with this guy where things that I can't really explain happened.
Yeah.
And so I wonder what, you hear, have you heard about, much Ram Dass?
Yeah.
Ram Dass talks about, I think it was Ram Dass talks about giving some Indian guru, he gave him acid.
Maharaji. Yeah.
And nothing happened.
Yeah.
He was just like, it didn't affect him because and apparently didn't the Maharaji just disappear?
Yeah.
Like he just, apparently as the legend goes, this physical human man just evaporated. He's gone. He didn't and obviously I don't believe that. I don't know if that happened, but part of me is like, maybe it did. Maybe he knew some shit. The point I'm getting at is it's sexy to think about the places you could potentially get to if you can meditate deeply and hard enough, if you can get there. But I kind of have come full circle with that now, thinking that I believe that we are a consciousness, a soul, a spirit, whatever you want to call it, having a human experience, physical human experience. And I believe that there was something before and there is something after. I can't really be any more specific about either side. I'm not prepared to commit to anything any more specific, but I believe that we come from the same thing. I believe that whatever's animating you is the same thing that's animating me. It's just it's in you.
Yeah.
And this is the human experience. This is the body I've been given. This is the place that I have. Time is linear, and I perceive it in the way that the human body perceives it. And to escape that, I kind of think that's what happens. You can do that when you die.
Yeah, there's a lot of time for that.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're dead. Maybe when you're dead, you're dead. You're gone. Everything ends, finishes. Okay, maybe that's what happens. I don't know, but I don't believe that. And I kind of think exactly there's a physical experience, and I think I just think it's just those hardcore meditators who are spending all their time doing that are escaping and running away from existing in the physical human experience.
Yeah,
and trying to optimize that.
Yeah, if I was to kind of sum it up in a sort of a statement, you could call that spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing,
yeah.
Which I've done. I'm like, the universe wants me. The universe will always provide, and I'm just going to surrender to the universe. It's like, motherfucker, get up and make your bed.
Yeah.
Get up and go and exist in the world and interact with life. What I take from my learnings, bro, and I've done enough. I haven't done a lot, but I've done enough to get to a point where I'll question everything, but I'll also have the things that I'm pretty firm on.
Sure.
And the two things, or the three things I'm firm on is I got to have a connection to myself. Which is my connection to my soul. I got to have a connection to nature, and I got to have a connection to spirit. And if I don't have those three things, then I'm become lopsided.
So let's talk me through those. How do you delineate self from spirit? Because nature's an easy one. Get the fuck outside. Take your shoes off. Jump in the ocean.
Yeah.
Look at the moon. Get some sun.
Wind, water, dirty. Fire, earth.
Yeah.
Elements. Yeah. That's how I define connect to nature.
And that's huge. It's amazing how much better I feel about myself if I'm not feeling good and I go outside and even if I work out, that kind of grounds me as well. Getting sweaty, moving my body, using my physical body, getting some sunshine. Yeah. Super, super grounding.
Totally.
But the self and spirit, how do you delineate that difference?
Spirit is through prayer.
Okay.
And I'm not talking religion like God and Christianity and that stuff. I don't subscribe to that. I think it has its place and they can do whatever the fuck they want. Not for me. We're good to swear on this, yeah?
Mate, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, cool. So like for me, prayer is an embodiment.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does prayer feel like? So for me, it's a form of like, can I be grateful for what I've got? Can I ask for what I want? And can I come back and feel what is in this moment? That's what prayer is to me. And that connects me to spirit. I call it Great Spirit. That's the name that I have for it. Some people call it God, Wakantanka, Tonka Shila, all these different names, Source, Universe, the Cosmos. You can call it whatever you want. For me, it's Great Spirit because that's very self-explanatory.
Something bigger than me.
Yeah, something greater than myself. And what that is like that allows me to submit and surrender and not need to be in control. So connection to spirit is saying, hey, there's a force here that's greater than me, that's moving me and all things around me. And I'm going to say thank you. And I'm going to ask for what I've got. And then I'm going to put forth what it is that I desire. And that normally comes through in an intention. Hey, I want to be a father. Okay, cool. Spirit hears me. Cool. All right. We're going to prepare you. It's going to take a little longer than you want, but we're going to prepare you. Amazing. I spoke it last year at the Gathering of Men. I said, in the claiming your manhood, we have this beautiful circle and every man steps in and claims what it is that he wants. And I said, I want for nothing other than to be a father. And almost to the day, like my wife's due within a week from this year's Tigom. So, that for me was a prayer. I set an intention. It was a prayer in the witness of men, in the witness of the circle of men who had just journeyed with me for 4 days. So, of course, it was going to be amplified. It wasn't just me. It was all of them. Connection to self, that's really that could be the form of like going within, meditating within, going into my feeling body, my somatic experience, and actually having a conversation with the irreducible uniqueness that is my soul. So we both come from the same place. I agree with you on that. I feel we all kind of emanate from the pool of consciousness, and our soul comes down and is like, "Hey, I'm going to do Jacob this time. I'm going to have a Jacob experience."
Sure, yeah.
And
maybe when we're dreaming, we go and visit other people in that place. But
and
when we go,
my wife and I, we've both had experiences where in ceremony we've assumed a different person's sort of field of consciousness, and it's like it's crazy to see how that stuff can bounce around when you shift yourself into an altered state. But I'm very happy being Jacob. So what I do is like, what is true Jacob and what is story Jacob? Because story Jacob is just borrowed beliefs from society and others that have been imprinted on me from childhood, and anything that's sort of been reaffirmed through through developmental patterns or through a large sort of highly emotional experience that's sort of imprinted on me. So I just have to ask myself, what's true Jacob?
That's a tough one to
delineate hard,
between, because the ego wants to hang on to story so much because it just makes us feel significant and it makes us feel like we belong, and all these survival things. Like what you're describing is quite one thing that I continually keep being taught, and by doing this podcast, is how human beings need connection. Connection is the most important driving force for us.
So,
and by finding that delineation between the true and the story, you have to risk being out on your own, and that's fucking scary, man.
It's the paradox, and this is the two truths kind of dilemma that we chew on all the time in men's group. Is like, okay, cool. For connection to exist, separation has to exist, right? Otherwise, so I have to exist and you have to exist separately for us to connect.
I see what you're saying. Yes, of course.
So and that can be a real thing, because if you truly believe that we are all one, then oneness should just be the default. Then the only thing that creates separation is the identity.
Okay.
And that's a crazy concept. And it's like, I don't want to get too kind of intellectual about it, but I'm like, the reason that connection is so beautiful in this life is because one day it will end. I was just writing. We've had a little change around. We've had a birth keeper sub in for another one. We've had a week of changes coming into the birth, and part of that. The questionnaire
is that like
a doula?
A doula?
Yeah, like someone that's out of the system. We're doing a wild pregnancy, and
a wild pregnancy.
Yeah, so we're doing it at home. We haven't had any scans. We haven't been to the doctors. Everything's just in alignment with our values.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, so it's yeah, man. It's like
I love it.
Yeah, I'm being asked to hold a lot in my nervous system right now.
Yeah,
but essentially, like, we got asked to write down, what would our ideal birth be like and postpartum, and I started writing down, what I wanted to experience in postpartum. I wrote down just like I want to sing. I sing to my baby, I just started like crying at the cafe this morning before I got here, and I was like, oh, that's like, there's going to be a part of me that's outside of me that I'm going to love more than this.
Oh yeah, man.
And I'm like, and my whole world just started, like, all my ego and my identity just started to crumble. And it's like, you don't know love yet, bro. And I was like, but I do. No, you don't know love yet. Because and I'm like, oh, okay. So of course I'm feeling uncomfortable in my body. Of course my ego's wrestling. Of course I want to dump Meg and run to the hills and meditate in the mountain, because you're about to experience a love that you've never ever experienced, because a part of you that you love will be separate from you. And one day you're going to have to let that go.
Release it out into the wild.
Yeah. And you have control issues, Jacob, so that's going to be a little harder than you think.
Fucking yeah, man. Well, for me on that, what I had anticipated all those things, but what I hadn't.
That's me, bro. I'm like, I can think about it. I can be in thought. I can anticipate. Yeah, this is going to be pretty big.
It's like telling Stevie Wonder, this is what red looks like. He's like, yeah, I can imagine what that's like. No, you can't. You can't do it. But. And I had anticipated those things, but what I hadn't anticipated that has been the biggest wrestling match for me is realizing how much of my childlike behaviors that I needed to put to bed, my own, because there's a real child here.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's the first, ever since becoming a dad, I've really stepped into and felt like I am a man. I've always, before that, felt like I'm not a boy. Part of me had some pretty boy-like behaviors, and there's still some there. But I'd refer to myself as a guy or a dude, a lad, not a man, and that felt weird. Whereas now, that's what I've stepped into, and that's what I completely resonate with, and that has taken a lot of battling in, like, basically removing childlike impulses of, I don't want to get up at 3 a.m, I want to sleep in. Too fucking bad, man. There's a kid here. There's a child here. What are you going to do? You're going to leave your child? Well, of course not. But that's a wrestling match that goes on. If you're a good dad, which I know you're going to be, and vast majority of dads are, you win that wrestling match. But that wrestling match is a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. There was so many more of those things that came up, so many sacrifices that I didn't realize I would have to make in order to be a good father, protector, provider for my child and wife. Yeah. And those are the things in practice that really were a lot more confronting than I had thought they were going to be. All that love stuff is, you don't know yet, but you're ready for it. When you feel it, it's like the first time you do any drugs or psychedelics, especially. The first time, you go, oh, wow, I wonder what this is going to be like. Then you do it and you go, holy shit, I had no idea that was a real thing. It's like that. Yeah. But you're expecting that. And there's going to be a bunch of stuff for you personally that is going to come up and maybe you'll be all over that stuff that I had a harder time with. And maybe there'll be other stuff that you'll be like, fuck, I'm really struggling with that one. That's,
I think that's what I see in modern society is a resistance to the next stage of manhood. There's a whole culture around like this fierce independence of like, I don't need a relationship, or I don't want that. I want to travel. I want to adventure. I've got a lot of living to do before I step into this. And I think there's a real aversion to responsibility.
Well, I feel like that's all great, but there's the next that has to come to an end. There is a next chapter after that, and it becomes a problem when you are resisting that next chapter.
Well, that's
what it looks like it's happening. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you used to watch Happy Days?
Yeah, sometimes.
Fonz?
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I think someone told me about this. Is like it's cool being the Fonzie in your 20s, but like in your 50s and 60s, rocking around in a leather jacket and slick back hair in a fast car, like and you're going home to an empty house, single,
partying too much, And isn't it ironic when people have, sorry to cut you off, when people have like midlife crises, that's kind of what they do.
The fast car.
Yeah, they go back to that stuff and it's like, I just want to express maybe that's what's happening. Yeah. These guys are like, I want to express myself the way I felt like who I was, which is I felt like I was more myself when I was 20 and I had no responsibility.
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy a fast car. I'm going to, go and party and do that stuff. Yeah. And it's like integrated childlike behavior.
And we haven't created a framework or a cultural framework for those men to go and live out their own individual expression and remember that they are an individual man. Yes, they are a father. Yes, they are a husband. Yes, they are a leader or a manager or a boss or whatever they are in their career, but they're also Dave who likes fishing, or John who likes motorbike riding, or Jacob who likes rock climbing, or I don't even like rock climbing, but whatever. There is how do we tether them back to that individual self and give them space to explore that in these different chapters of life? And I remember I distinctly remember the change in my father when he stopped going on his annual fishing trip, and when it became no longer a priority, and he had to, for whatever reason, money, I don't know, I've never really had the conversation with him too deeply, but I remember when he stopped going and his whole demeanor changed and he kind of lost a part of himself. So I totally get why men are resistant to letting go of this chapter of what we call the night, the fight, fuck, feast chapter of our lives, where we do what we go out and we make our money, we eat what we want, and then we fuck what we want. And we're kind of in that, like, I'm looking after my desires. And that's a really fun time. That's a really, really enriching, adventurous, exciting, for like lots of variety. It's a beautiful, beautiful time. But what we want to do is we want to be able to evolve and stay connected to that. So rather than having to go out every weekend and go on a bender, it's like, okay, I've got a structure now for my year where once, I have a structure that I think is like ultimate for any man. And I haven't been living it the last few months because I've been stressed out and going through my shit, and that's okay. A dose of my own medicine would be good. A man should take an hour for himself every day. A man should take 4 hours, a 4-hour block every week for himself, half a day. Every month, a man should take 1 day for himself. Every 3 months, a man should take 2 days for himself. And then every year, a man should take 2 weeks for himself. 2 weeks is a long time. 10, let's say 10 to 14 days. And what that does is that creates a framework for him to prioritize himself.
So these are separate instances where...
Yep. And what that does, and no one's going to get that perfect. If anyone does, ring me and tell me how you did it, and I'll pay you to coach me.
Yeah, well, you're single, you've got no job. That's how you do it. Yeah.
You're having fun.
Yeah,
but that essentially, that framework gives you something to, I guess, work toward.
I like it, and
that allows. Like, I worked out, if I take an hour a day. And if I've got 5 things I love to do, like I see you've got the guitars and stuff, and you're like, if I take an hour a day and I go jump in the sauna for half an hour, and then play a bit of music and read a couple of pages of my book, that day turns out pretty fucking good because I filled my cup. Then at the end of the week, on Saturday morning, I go out to the rock pools, or I go for a trail run, or I go for a surf with my mates, and then go get coffee and have breakfast with bros. And I do that 4 hours, and then I come back home. I'm feeling really fucking good.
Yeah, so much more present for your family.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly. And then once a month, if I take a day to go and do something that I love, whether it's, okay, I'm going to go...
We're going paintballing with your
paintball with the
mates.
lads, or we'll drive down to Lennox and go surfing there, or we'll go inland and go for a waterfall hike and, get fish and chips, whatever it is. Go and do that and fill my cup up once a month. And then every quarter I go on a small little trip away. Go camp, or camping's my thing. Go camping, whether it's a solo camp or with some bros. And then I have one thing a year that I do that's significant, that kind of acts as a reset for the entire year. It's kind of like a rite of passage or an initiatory experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that structure can be found within ancient cultures everywhere.
Yes.
And it fucking works.
We've lost it.
Yeah. And
even just rite of passage in tribal situations as young blokes, that used to be something, and probably still is in some cultures, but something that was done in cultures all around the world.
And it wasn't just for young men.
You're right.
That's the other thing. Like, because I was of that. I was like, okay, 12 and 18, you do your rites of passage and you're done. No, a rite of passage happened every year.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done much homework into it.
Yeah, it's and what I mean by a rite of passage is a significant experience that sort of you're going through a door that you can't go back through.
Sure.
Yeah, to put it as plainly as possible. But like most men in ancient cultures, they would do some form of rite of passage. So that's why that 10 to 14 days, that is for you to go and do something that is meaningful to you. Like a footy trip with the bros, going down and getting plastered and eating shit food, and like that's old news.
Yeah,
like,
not so significant. There's not a lot of transformation that will come from.
Yeah,
that.
And if we sort of circle back, I'm obsessed with the shape of a circle. I believe it's like ancient technology, and it's like the most powerful shape that has been underutilized in modern society. Is that if we circle back to the 3 points of connection: self, nature, and spirit. If you prioritize those 3 things within each of those windows that I was speaking about, your daily, weekly, quarterly, and yearly. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. If you prioritize a connection to self, spirit, and nature in those windows, you will create a fulfilling and meaningful life.
I believe it. I like it. It really resonates.
Yeah.
I recently have been formulating this idea of a morning routine that I need for me, and I haven't done it yet. I haven't started doing it, but it's cooking. And so these, and we can talk about it now. These things that I think will make me a better husband and father, and in turn, just a better man, just a better dude to be around, be more productive. I've been in a bit of a slump lately emotionally, and just trying to observe it, but also trying to learn what it's teaching me. And what it's teaching me is that I need to work a little harder at taking care of myself. And it's,
That's, I flinch when people ask me, can I help? I flinch and lock up when I can't, I don't take baths. I struggle to receive. I think that's a really common thing for men. And it sounds as though like that morning practice is not to therapize you, but the reason that you haven't started it, if I was to speak to myself through what you've said, is you haven't started that because you don't believe you're worthy of it yet.
Yeah. I guess that's probably in there.
And that's I say that because I'm saying it to myself. Like there's things that I haven't. I've got It took me 6 months. I had a bro came to one of my experiences that I run called Sacred Rage, and it's the fucking wildest day.
It sounds metal as fuck, bro.
It's metal as fuck, bro. It's so metal.
Yeah.
And we love it. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
But we wrap it all up in a day. And he had such a great experience, and he's a naturopath. He said, hey, bro, I want to gift you something. I want to do your blood work and your gut test for you and help you, because the work that you do is hectic. So you need to look after yourself.
Fuck, that's a great gift.
And it took me until it nearly, the tests were sitting in my cupboard and they nearly expired. And I did it about 2 weeks before they expired. And
really? You didn't even do the test? Yeah.
I've only just got the supplements, and they were sitting on my table today, and I told myself I was going to take them this morning. had a little dummy spit because Meg needed a little more from me this morning about something, and I didn't want to, and I was already out the door and I was already on my way here, and I didn't take my supplements. And I said that was the one thing I was going to do for myself today.
Yeah.
And I still didn't do it. So when I was sharing that, almost speaking that at you, it was more because I'm in that myself as well.
Yeah.
I'm in that self-worth wrestle, which is, all this stuff has to get done. So I'll just put myself at the end of the to-do list.
You know what's really exciting about being who we are and where we are right now in 2024? We live in Australia. We've got good lives. We are two fully grown men who are actually talking to each other about this instead of, for a lot of pretty much all of the history, we don't do this.
Yeah.
We don't talk about how I had a little fail today, bro. You know, and I should have done this, and I'm able to confess it to you. And by you doing that to me, I'm like, oh, thank God he's a little bit fucked up too. I'm not just alone here in the things that I know I could be doing better. And I know Jacob's probably going to do it tomorrow because he talked to me about it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's, you are able to talk about it. So you're like, oh, I can remove some of the weight from it by just going, I wish I'd done that. I can do better. Yeah. Instead of holding on to it and carrying it around and then adding it on top of the pile of all the other shit until you eventually, you know, buy a Ferrari that you can't afford at 50, you know?
Yeah. And then you need to crash it to wake yourself up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the modern structure, is like hold on as tightly as you can.
Yeah.
Tense up your butthole, close your heart, you know, furrow your brow and wait until the bus runs you over.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy because all we have is right now, bro. Like there's nothing I was having I was having a proper dummy spit on the way here. I was, you know, punching the steering wheel and going on about how everything's so hard for me and I just want to run away, and I forgot, have
a tanty every now and again, you know?
And I started thinking, like, and dude, all you have is right now. Like all of this stuff about the future, yeah, cool. All this stuff about the past, yeah, cool. Like none of it matters. None of it matters because it's not actually here. And I was having a bit of a moment. I just started then it was like, none of it matters. Then why am I letting it matter?
And I think the problem with it too is if you exist in the past or in the future, if you practice that too much, when the moment that you're waiting for is here, you won't know how to be there because you don't practice being there. You practice being in the future. So, I mean, it's a futile thing to go, no, I'll be in the moment when the thing that I'm working towards is here. But you don't know how to be in the moment. Just because it's a really good moment, you'll forget it.
Yeah.
You'll be like, fuck, I missed it. It's gone. That was a really good day earlier, wasn't it? It's gone.
Yeah, man, we had a friend's party on Saturday night, and there's these card games. We're pulling out these different cards and they're just questions. And I was like, describe your ideal day? And it was quite funny because I was sitting there with two bros, Pete and Jack, and we were all sitting back and we're thinking, we're like, today was it, we think. Like we all had one of those days where, like for me, I went surfing in the morning. I went and got breakfast.
Yeah.
I came home. I hung out with my wife. I replanted the veggie garden, threw the ball to the dog, listened to music that I wanted to listen to, hung out in the hammock, and then was having a beer with some friends at a party. And I was like, I think this is it. I think this is actually what, and I was like, it's not about the big moments. It's about the moments of contentment. It's like where I can rest and be like, I don't actually have to be anywhere else right now.
Yeah, what a beautiful thing to be able to acknowledge that, you know, when you think about how a majority of other human beings in the world live their days. You're right. That's a fucking great day.
Yeah.
That's a great day.
And it made me realize that it's not about what I'm getting or what impact I'm having in the world or who I'm saving or fixing or whatever. It's like, am I doing what my soul wants me to do in this moment? Am I listening? Am I listening? And it was hilarious because I was in the veggie garden and I just was having these like overwhelming sense of like gratitude. And like you were talking about, the sun was hitting me, my feet were barefoot on the earth, and I'm cultivating the earth, and I'm the dog's running around and jumping up and down, and Meg's laying there on the grass in a blanket reading her book. And I was like, I think this is it. I think this is what the meaning of life is, to just enjoy the moment.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I was like,
dude.
I don't, like, yeah, it'd be nice to have the beachfront property and all these different, okay, cool. Yeah, I can still desire things and move towards a more luxurious life, but I don't know if that's even what I want. Like, I can move toward that, of course. Yes, if that's where, my soul calls me to go. But to be honest, like, I'm happy with what I've got, and it's not necessarily about like maintaining it from like, I don't want to lose what I've got, but more so being like, okay, cool. Tomorrow, what are we doing, soul? Cool. Okay. And then the next day, and we've got the retreat coming up. Okay. Soul, what's on the to-do list? All right. Make sure you book this in, book that in. Okay. I can do that. And I just move through my day, and that takes the pressure off the getting to the point in the future. Because when I'm thinking about getting somewhere, the urgency occurs and there's a rush. And then all of a sudden I'm 2 steps ahead of the moment, and then I'm 4 steps, and then I'm 5 steps.
Mm-hmm.
And the further away I get, the less present I am. That's when intimacy dies in my relationship. That's when the creativity dries up in my content. That's when I'm no longer able to like enjoy coffee, or dinner doesn't, I just rush dinner and I cook whatever's in the fridge, and I don't stop and actually put music on and like put everything away and start. It's like, oh, okay, like I'm not honoring what's here. And that's a practice, man. I don't think anyone's got that nailed. I think it's no one I know, and I personally haven't, but it's as a guy I was speaking to on our podcast, we were saying like, life is a practice. And if you're not practicing, then you're performing. And if you're performing,
wow, that's great.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, in the like I often like link everything to music, or to like when people are like bringing through their gift, whatever their soul's gift is like you go to a gig or something, and someone is performing nothing. But if someone's bringing through their soul's transmission and letting themselves almost become unbridled and let life, rather than them performing what they think they are, let life move through them, like shit changes. I've been to gigs where I've seen a band that I didn't think I liked, and then once I'd seen them live and experienced them be absolute fucking weapons of like a soul transmission that I've never experienced, I couldn't stop listening to their music afterward. I had that with Red Hot Chili Peppers. I didn't really like their music, and then I saw them play, and I was like, these guys are absolutely mental. They're crazy, and they're so infectious. And I loved the bass player Flea, and I was like, this guy's he's a nut job, but he's like so in it. And I couldn't stop listening to them for like 6 months. And I was like, this is really cool for me to experience their essence, and then be able to like tap into their music. And I think that's why expression and like tapping into your soul, your connection to self, is so important. Because if your vessel isn't a clear space for like nature to feed you and spirit to move through you, then you're going to perform.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to behave in a manner that you think you should, which is a performance, rather than behaving in the manner that you know is right.
Yeah.
In that, but yeah. Flea is nuts, isn't he? And you can you can just tell that he's one of those people that is just unique. He's eccentric.
Yeah.
He just is it. He's not trying to be.
Yeah.
He's just weird.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
He's just being, he's fleeing. That's what he's doing. Like no one else can do what he does because he's so. Have you had experiences like that where you've witnessed that in others, or like that you've had because for me, I've had experiences where I've gone into that and had my own version of that, and it's felt really, really good.
Yeah.
But for me, it's something that I wrestle with, is bringing through that transmission on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. I struggle with it. I have. And I do have moments too. And interestingly, I feel as though I am the moments where that is happening for me is when I'm on stage more, which is a really beautiful place for it to be. I feel like I'm in a flow state now, whereas I used to perform. I used to do things and behave in a manner that I thought I should be doing to make people like me and to make people like my music and what I was doing, and just trying to be someone cool. And it's really not that anymore, which is really special. I love doing it. And then there are times when I do gigs where I am feeling the complete opposite, where I'm the guy in the corner playing solo acoustic. And those gigs can either be really beautiful or really awful. Yeah. Like they're just, some of them are soul destroying because no one's listening and I'm just like, you know, and it's like, it's such a dynamic place to be. But I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. And I think that there are some folks that you meet that they're just kooky all the time. Whereas I think you and I probably similar in this sense, where there's moments where I have this thing that comes through me and I allow it, and it's special. Yeah. But it's not like I'm a super weird guy by nature and I'm holding it in all the time. Whereas, you meet people every now and then, you go, man, that person's just like fucking different. Yeah. Yeah. and I think Flea is one of those people, and it's very interesting to be around those folks because it can be hard work. Yeah. When they're so unbridled, there's when you either love them or you hate them. Yeah. And quite often it's both. Yes. Depending on what mood they're in and what mood you're in.
And that's where, like I said, coming back to it, it's like, you want the river. You don't want the swamp. Like I could imagine being around someone like Flea if he was always like that, like he is on stage, which I don't know him, obviously, but that would be a lot. It'd be like spilling out over the edges. There'd be no containment. You would feel like he's all over the place. Yeah. And, that's part of, for me, it's like, okay, cool. How do I bring through my transmission in the cleanest way possible?
Yeah. I saw this video came up on my YouTube feed the other day. I didn't even click on it because it was an interview with Elon Musk's mum and dad and ex-wives talking about him, and the thumbnail was something negative about what he's like, and I was like, I don't for a moment. Like, what do you expect someone like Elon Musk to be like? You think he's going to be this beautiful, attentive husband and father? Like, he's the most high-functioning, richest man in the world that you've ever seen. You watch an interview with him for 5 minutes, you go, he's on a different level. Yeah. I don't for a moment expect that he's going to be a super present and tender father and husband and son and all that stuff. Like, I know what these people are going to say. Yeah. Like, I'm not surprised. Yeah,
massively. And like,
he'd be hard work.
Yeah, and where are you not honoring that's his transmission? Where are you needing him to be something that he's not? And this is the massive issue that we're seeing in relationships, is where, especially where women are wanting men to be absolutely everything to them. And this is where we reignite the tribe, bro. Like, this is why community is so important. And the wrestle, I see so many men. It's like men want to be everything to their woman. They want to provide. They want to protect. They want to be deeply present. They want to be able to do everything that she wants. And it's there's like this idea that it's a guilt hangover that's been passed on to men of this generation, which is women had been under the guise of the patriarchy for so long, and now that the feminine has risen, that the men of this generation kind of don't want to repeat the past. They're carrying this weight of like, oh, men were dangerous and hurt women. Now we don't want to do that. We just want to give them everything that they didn't get. So we're going to do absolutely everything in our power to make sure that women feel safe, seen, secure, and they have all the money that they need, and they have and we're going to do absolutely, and we're just going to be a servant to the feminine. That then leads to this nice guy, people pleaser issue that we have, which is essentially men with big hearts that don't know how to use them properly.
And interestingly, the intention is good, but not sexy.
It's not, and it's not contained. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have structural integrity. These men are very easily swayed. They are really making decisions based on the emotional state of their partner, which at times isn't always the best gauge as to what should govern a decision.
Wow, that's a good one. That is, man. I think everybody struggles with that
Totally.
at times, because it's you have to make a decision to go, what is, in my opinion, the best thing to do in this situation? Is it exactly what I'm being asked of? What is being asked of me? Or is it the polar opposite of that? And am I prepared to deal with the consequences of me not doing what is being asked of me?
Can my nervous system stay regulated through this experience if I choose to do what I know is right,
Yes.
RITE, versus what my woman's emotional state wants to do to maintain its the identity that's attached to it? And that's a wrestle, you know. And I'm not here to be like alpha male and say, you know, women need to always surrender and submit. I do believe that the feminine is an intuitive force that can lead.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you can attest to this. There's been many times when I am not seeing something, and I just have learned that there are times that I need to be able to tap in and go, this is, she knows some shit that I don't know in this situation.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to dealing with other people.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to dealing with people that we don't know very well.
Yeah.
The amount of times when she is just on the money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't think. And I just, and finding those moments.
Yeah. And that's
a skill that I don't have as a man.
And that's what I would call that as having a feminine core, which is a deep sense of feeling.
Yeah.
Having a masculine core is a deep sense of awareness and awareness is kind of like I'm thinking about all of this, whereas I'm feeling into this. is a slight difference, and it's neither's right or wrong. It's just, can you actually allow, when your woman says, "Hey, this doesn't feel right," can you trust that?
Yes. And I think absolutely. And that also comes from the dynamic where you have to build enough trust in her. Sorry, you have to allow her to build enough trust in you to know that she can trust that you are making the right call when you stand up and say, this is what we need to do.
Yes.
This is what needs to happen here. Calmly and in strength, for her to be able to go, okay, cool. I trust that. Whereas and that's something that's a tricky thing to get right, because if you do that and you're wrong too many times, there's no respect there. And why should she respect you?
Well, the data doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And
it can take a while to correct that data.
Yeah.
It may take 20, 30, 40 correct decisions before it can be seen as, okay, now that's trustworthy. And you got to sit in that until you get it back.
And there's a difference between taking a risk and being reckless.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's where you as a man have to. Are you going to be Flea all the time and run around naked on stage, swinging playing epic bass solos?
Yeah.
Is that how you're going to live your life?
Yeah.
In every single moment?
Yeah.
You can have moments like that.
Well, that's great in certain moments.
Yeah, it's great
when you're on stage
for an hour on stage.
Yeah.
But then how are you moving through other areas of your life? And that's
doesn't work so well when you're filing your taxes.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't do that at the shopping center.
Yeah.
But that's where it's like, okay, where am I leaning into my edges and courageously stepping into the unknown? And where am I being chaotic? Because there's a difference between courage and chaos. And that's what I really say is like, man, like your life is going to ask you to take risks. Just don't be reckless. Because reckless is what, like a teenage boy who's uninitiated, he's going to go looking for death. What happens when you get your P plates? You want to drive fast. What happens when you taste alcohol? You want to drink 400 of the fucking bottles of double blacks. Like you want to get as close to the edge as possible and jump off it. And this is why men need other men to temper them and say, hey bro, you're burning a bit brightly, or you're flying a little too close to the sun, or hey man, don't forget you've got a wife at home, or hey man, get those taxes done, or hey man, get those tires changed on your car. Hey man, you're looking a bit fat. Come train.
Get healthy.
Yeah. Hey, bro.
Take care of your body. Yeah.
You look tired.
You know, I heard this statistic that apparently the most dangerous groups of people in any society are pubescent boys because they have the physicality almost of a man, the strength, the testosterone coursing through their veins, and they have none of the wisdom. And I think I've just realized this now, just listening to you and just talking about that. The school system that we have puts them in the same age group.
Yeah.
And they hang out with each other.
Yeah.
They don't have the boys. I mean, obviously, you're in school together, but they spend a lot of time with people that are at exactly the same point. And obviously people's bodies develop at different times, but they're the same age.
Yeah.
Instead of having lads that are 3-4 years older or 20 years older, you've got one teacher who you hope can steer them in the right direction. And quite a majority of the time, those teachers aren't men.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of exacerbating that, and that's one of the things that I took away from that is if I say this to my wife, but even for myself, if I see a group of 13, 14-year-old lads on the street somewhere, those are the guys you want to stay away from. It's not some crackhead looking old dude. I mean, obviously you probably don't want to hang around him either, but the ones you're going to be the most concerned about is the pubescent boys, which exactly speaks to what you're just talking about.
They're looking for a contained space to push buttons. I know for me, that's when I want to rock. I wanted to rock roofs. I wanted to
fuck shit up,
let people's tires down. I was looking for someone to tell me to tell me the rules, show me the way.
It's like I'm going through it now with my 2.5-year-old daughter.
Yeah,
but it's 2.5.
Yeah,
very different to a 15-year-old dude. Yeah. Letting down tires. She's not letting down anyone's tires.
No.
She's throwing spaghetti on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like as you start to, a 15-year-old is like he's preparing for manhood. Like if he doesn't, if that young man doesn't receive the appropriate space
or backlash,
the space will give him the backlash. That's the thing where you get to one of the things that my father did that wasn't perfect but worked out well. Like whenever I'd do something fucking stupid, he'd just get up in my face like, you want to come for a swim in the big pool? You want to hop in the big pool with the big boys? Well, it'll fucking happen, mate. He's like, do you want to do that? And I'd cower and I'd like, fuck no, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, right. It's like you want to behave like an adult.
Yeah, you want to behave like a man, well, fucking come and hang out with him.
Yeah, right.
You want the responsibility? Are you ready? And I don't think he was aware of what he was doing, and there could have been better ways, of course. But essentially what he was saying is like, hey, man, if you're ready, step through the threshold, but you're not.
You don't get to behave like an adult without the responsibility of an adult. Yeah, I mean, it is a valid lesson.
Yeah. And that's where like rites of passage, if we, circle back around again, that stuff is like essential. And the whole concept of and I read a lot about, and I love boyhood and understanding this. So developmentally, like your primary caregiver shifts from for the first 6 years, it's your mother. Mother is primary. That's how it is.
This for boys and girls, or just
boys and girls? But we'll just focus on boys for this, and then 6 to 12, mum and dad are both important. You're trying to learn. You're looking to your dad for what a male is. You're developing your male characteristics. But for mum, you go to her if you scrape your knee or if someone hurts you or bullies you. You're still going to mum. Yeah. After 12, your primary caregiver is your father. And it's essential for him and other male figures to be present so you develop your masculinity. And if you don't have male figures in that 12 to 18, like healthy masculine figures that give you an important role in life, teach you the rules of the game and how to play it, that give you adventures to go on and friends that you can go on those adventures with. If they don't give you a sense of tribe, they give you a spiritual life. If these men don't collectively give you these 10 core needs that develop masculinity and your masculine essence and sort of cultivate your capacity for responsibility, you're going to do dumb shit and you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble with authority. You're going to go looking for trouble.
Yep. Because
you haven't been given appropriate spaces to do dumb shit.
Yep. Wow.
That's why I'm really passionate about it. And that's why, a lot of young guys die doing silly things that if we had the appropriate spaces, we wouldn't have to wrestle with that as much. And that's why a lot of guys get to for suicide, man, I think it's from the ages of 16 to 44. Like that's the biggest killer of men.
Suicide.
Yeah. And 6 men a day. It's fucked. It's absolutely fucked. It does my fucking head in.
Here in Australia?
In Australia.
Wow.
That's bad. I get that. People can do whatever the fuck they want. If you want to kill yourself, that's your responsibility. You're a sovereign being. That's your soul. And you have a conversation with that. I'm not going to get in your way. I have a rule though. If you're going to be my mate and you're going to kill yourself, you have to ring me first. So at least I can fucking have a chance to talk you out of it. But I've recently been reading up on it because we're doing we're creating a presentation to get sponsors involved with the work that we do because we really want to expand across Australia. And when someone kills themselves, there is 135 people directly affected on average. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, if 6 men are killing themselves a day, 6 times 135, it's almost, it's close. It's up nearly to 1,000 people a day are affected, which is over 250,000 people a year are affected by suicide.
And my instinct tells me that it's probably I can't really think of a more difficult thing to have to overcome as someone that's left behind. An accident or an illness, these are awful things. But for a loved one to take their own life,
yeah,
that's got to be really wrestling with coming to terms with that has got to be probably more challenging than anything else.
So this is where I get really passionate. I was like, okay, I don't think we're going to solve that issue perfectly. I think there's going to be men who choose to check out. I'm not looking to completely eradicate suicide, but what I'm looking at is how do we address this issue, because it's not just the people dying, it's the 135 people that are affected. It's the mothers. We had one of our good mates hang himself when we were 20. I was 21. He was 19 or 18, and it affected every single one of my friends. And I've been healing and dealing with it for the last 13 or 14 years, even to the point of earlier this year, it all came up again and came through my body somatically in a way that it never has before. All of my friends who were also affected by that, and no one has, like, I know for a fact that none of them have really done any healing work or grief work.
Not consciously, anyway.
No. So let's look at the ripple of that. There's there's hundreds of people that were affected by that. Those hundreds of people go and get into relationships. They get married. They have children. They then parent their children, and then that, by default, it can't not. There is stories and beliefs and unprocessed grief that get passed on, and then it filters out and out and out. So for me, this is not so much around stopping suicide as it is about, like, how do we actually address the actual challenges that these young men are facing before suicide, and how do we actually start to build a healthier relationship with death, and we reintegrate grief into our lives and not try to hide it.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't think they're ever going to die.
No.
They just don't think about it.
And I believe that that's what a good rite of passage is. It's a death.
Sure.
The death of who you were, and it's a birth of who you're becoming.
Yeah, wow.
And that's what, man, like, we had a beautiful, beautiful guy. We're doing a facilitator train at the moment, and he came out of it and he was pretty rattled. Like, we took him through some serious, like, beautiful, beautiful transformative experiences, but he came out of it and he was like, I don't know if what went down was okay. He's like, that felt way too. And then we had some discussions, and the penny started to drop. He's like, oh, it was meant to be that way because part of me had to die so I could become this version of me. And he's just made a huge decision in his life around something that I don't want to, I want to honor the privacy and the sacredness of the brotherhood, but he's just made a huge decision in his life, and his whole structural integrity has changed. His posture is like pronounced. Yeah. And there's life force moving. Like, you can see there's life behind his eyes. And it was so funny. He was like, that's what he was having the realization. He's like, oh, it's meant to be intense. It's meant to be overwhelming. It's meant to like crack me open. That's what an initiation and a rite of passage does.
That's where the good stuff is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to go down that far to be able to come back up just as high.
Correct.
Otherwise it's just, wow.
So that's where for me, it's like if we create appropriate rites of passage, if we create, a cultural structure where initiations are present for men in their life forevermore, we're going to have a relationship with death. We won't need to go and kill ourselves. We won't need to go and do things that are unnecessary that cause pain and suffering not only to ourselves but to the people that we love.
You could, in theory, and I'm sure this has happened many, many times, you could kill the part of yourself that wants to kill itself.
Yeah.
You could go through a harrowing, dark experience and have a death without physically dying.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that would be for people who are in that place. It would be so hard, so challenging and so dark. But you get to wake up out the other side.
Well,
and your family and friends don't have to deal with the fallout.
And man, like coffee's never tasted better. Like the smell of spring has
raw
never
broccoli's never tasted better.
Yeah, and that's I've kind of spent the last sort of 8 years in the realms of this unintentionally, like going through different types of rites and passages of initiation. And one of my favorite ones is Vision Quest, which is 4 days and nights on the land, no food, no water, sitting in a circle by yourself, and you strip back everything and you just sit there.
That's got to be kind of maddening.
Yeah, and it is. It's maddening. And you're like, am I going to dehydrate and die? I'm hungry.
No water?
No water.
Holy shit. Whoa.
And the thing is that you don't die, but you do. A part of you dies, but you come back.
Well, I have never done anything like that. I've done water fasts.
Yeah.
So I think I did 3 days.
Yeah.
So only water. And went about my business and as much as I could function. And what I learned doing that was just how much time I spend worrying about eating and how it makes me feel before and after and all of that stuff, eating things that I'm like, this is poison. I'm putting poison into my body because I'm hungry and it makes me feel good for a moment and shit for a while.
Yep.
And just observing that from doing that little water fast is profound.
Yeah.
And you slip back into habits. I gave you a marshmallow this morning.
Yeah.
I'm a bad influence.
We're human.
But you fucking ate it, so you're just as bad. But that perspective is powerful. Whereas
and what would it
Vision
be?
Quest?
Yeah. Well, what would it be like to do that every year? To do your water fast every year to reset. Yeah. And this is the thing, is like that's why a rite of passage is part of the cycle of manhood. And if you see yourself as linear, you are denying the natural state of your being, which is to be in cycles, because that's what nature does.
Yes.
This is the issue that a lot of men face, is they think that life is linear. It's not.
We are seasonal beings.
We are. We just don't have it inbuilt like women do in the way that they bleed with the 28-day cycle. So they have something that's very, very visceral and physical.
Yep.
Men don't. So we have a 24-hour cycle, or I like to think we have like a seasonal cycle, and you can look at that across any time frame. But you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware that, hey, like there's going to be times when I need to rest. There's going to be times when I need to go out and go through my initiation once a year. Okay, let's strip it all back. No food, no water, 4 days, Jacob. Cool. Yep. Go and do it in appropriate. Don't just go and do it yourself. Like go and sit with the elders and learn the ways of the lineage that you're working with, and like be held appropriately and do it in a way that's appropriate. And that's beautiful.
Can you talk to me more about what that is actually like? Like, did you have, how many times have you done that?
Twice. Yeah.
So did you have moments where you really broke down and it really broke you?
I do pretty well in those situations.
Really? Because is there no desperation where you're like, I think I need to stop this. This is going to be...
not for me.
Wow.
In saying that, I've done a lot leading into that.
Sure.
Yeah, like a lot of my work with the plants and the medicines has been like profound. Like I've been in that world for the last 8 years. And And it's only in the last 2 years that I've found Vision Quest. And it's been through like my love of Native American culture, both the South and North Americas. I've always had a fascination with it. Ever since I was a little boy. Like cowboys and Indians was like the thing. And I'm obsessed with, you know, the music and the ways of the American, like the indigenous American culture is phenomenal for me. So I'd done a lot of work leading into this. So I felt very ready.
Okay. You were able to embrace the discomfort.
Yes. And in saying that, there's other things that I do that are initiatory that like literally rip me apart. Where I only recently we sat a ceremony with one of my teachers from Peru, and the entire day I thought I was going to die. I literally was crawling, purging towards the toilet, and I literally fell to my knees and I was like, I'm going to die.
Wow.
I'm going to die. And I had and 3 key messages came through from that. It was like, first one was love yourself, look after yourself. Look after yourself. Look after, and as I kept saying, look after yourself. That was when all of the every fucking belief that wasn't that was just leaving my body. Look after yourself. Look after yourself.
What did you done? What was the ceremony?
It's a plant medicine called Huachuma, which is the cactus from Peru. It's also known as San Pedro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this anything like what's the other cactus, peyote?
It's not. It can be, but for me, it's not. It's a very internal. It's very physical and internal.
Is it medicine. Like a psychedelic visual thing?
No.
Wow, it's more of a
body based.
Wow,
you can't escape to the ethereal world.
Oh wow.
No.
And is it kind of like a poisoning?
It can feel like a poisoning. It can feel like an intense detoxification. For me,
vomiting,
that's what it was.
And shitting?
That's what it was for me.
Yeah.
No one else it was. Everyone else was. Wow. You know, it can be. It can really. What we say in ceremony. It's, you know, a lot of the teachers and the medicine men and women say is like, you'll come for what you want and you'll get what you need.
Man, I love it. That is a perfect way, I think, to tell someone what any kind of psychedelic experience is like.
Yeah.
And I think that is important to know. You may come because you want to get fucked up, but you will get what you need to get. And maybe it will allow you to get fucked up, or maybe it will tear your heart out of your body and, you know, throw you back into your childhood and bring up some trauma and, you know, or anything in between, take you to a different realm.
Yeah. And like, I don't want to, like, I have my experience. So like, for anyone that's wanting to explore these modalities with plants or with altered states of consciousness, trust the call. Talk to your soul. Don't listen to me and be like, I'm going to do what Jacob did, because that never fucking works. No. What I would say is, like, you know, I've been working with that medicine for close to 8 years now. And for the first 30 plus journeys, everything was peachy.
Oh, really?
It was all beautiful. It was actually the first time I've ever felt like I'd felt loved.
Oh,
really
wow.
loved was when I first did it. It gave me a reference point for oneness. And then it said, go and find this in as many moments as you can. Do not rely on me for this.
What was the first thing that you did? Psychedelics wise?
Yeah, that was Huachuma.
Oh, really? That was the first one that you ever did?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, what called you to that? Above like mushrooms?
My partner. Yeah, she said, I was a real no man when it came to anything new. I was very rigid, structured. I'm going to work. I'm going to build us a house. I'm going to do all of the right things that my dad didn't do, and I'm going to be really safe. Sure. And she's got to a point, she's like, I don't want to be with you because you're boring.
Yeah, yeah.
And she sort of said, well, she didn't say that. She said it really beautifully. She said, hey, listen, I can feel that you're really, feels like you're done with adventure and newness, and it feels like you're happy with what you've got. I want to go this way. I'd like to go that way with you, but if you don't want to come, that's okay. I need to know.
I'm going.
And for the first time in my life, I was like, am I going to like play it safe, or am I going to go for it? And I was lucky enough to have her ask so openly and lovingly that I was like, I'm in. And the next thing that we did was go and do this ceremony. And I said yes. I didn't even know what it was.
It's probably for the best, to be honest.
That's what I worked, and it was like, it was a feeling of like, okay, of course we had that conversation, and of course, you know, the medicine was already, you know, it's already like, And now, you know, the deep relationship that I have with the mountains and the medicine and the way of life that it's given me, it's profound. And it's connected me back to my Irish roots and the Celtic ways. And it's shown me the importance of culture and spirituality and how it's been lost in my lineage especially. So that's what I'm here to do on behalf of my family and really on behalf of my soul, is to do that. But that medicine, when I sat with it, what it was telling me was like, hey man, you know this shit. Why are you coming back to me and asking me the same shit?
Interesting. I had, and I haven't done it anywhere near as much as you have, but I had a similar message from psychedelics. I was doing, I was typically doing magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
And I never did huge doses. I was always doing about, I think the first time I did it, I did about 1.8 or 2 grams, which is definitely enough to get in there. It definitely gave me a transformative and life-changing experience. But it's not like the Terence McKenna heroic dose of 5 grams in silent darkness, you know. It was definitely not that. And then I smoked DMT a few times. I had which is like, whoa. I had a very dark experience on mushrooms where I became my dad. I merged consciousness with my dad and I was purging his pain. And then after that, and that really messed me up. Really messed me up. And I wasn't really equipped to deal with it or understand it. That fucked me up for a good few months.
Yeah.
And after that, I smoked DMT because I thought I want to have a good experience on psychedelics and then I can just walk away from this for a while, right? And that was the third time I'd smoked DMT. And that third time, there was a female presence there every time. And the first time it was like they took me to ancient Egypt and they were you know, so loving, just like I just felt love and it was so nurturing, like a maternal kind of feeling. It was beautiful. Second time was like I was in the swinging 60s and the 70s and there were all these female entities there and that was very sexual, you know. It was like an orgy. They were showing me themselves and they were dancing and it was really sexual. The third time the female presence was there. It was dark. She was way off in the distance and she had her back to me and she was ignoring me and there was nothing else there. And the message that I got from that was, you can stop coming here, man. You got work to do outside of here. Stop coming here. Get on with it. And it was a very sobering experience. So it's just interesting to hear that you had a similar kind of thing where it was like, hey man, get on with things in the real world.
Yeah. So beautiful the way that you put that. It's what even the way that you spoke to that, it's like the first experience you had was the nurturing mother, which is kind of what we get when we're born, right?
Yeah.
The mother that looks after us. And that's sort of like, oh, the love of the feminine. And then the second one was like, you learn that the feminine can be, you know, can be pleasurable and rich and delicious. And then the third part is like, you can no longer come to me for what you need. You have to go and find it yourself.
And it was almost like she was tending to someone else.
It's time for you to go. It's time for you to detach from me, which is what a lot of men don't get, which is the detachment from mother and to go with the men. So it was like, okay, cool. Let me show you the 3 stages of relationship to the feminine.
Yeah.
And it's almost like she's turned her back on you to give you the, you know, not out of spite, but out of like, you no longer can you suckle.
Yes.
Stop tugging on my skirt. Stop trying to get something from me and go and create it yourself.
Yes.
Which is the path every man must take. And for me, man, like that's with the medicine, I'd been hiding from it. I actually had
hiding
been
from the medicine,
hiding from my path with the medicine work.
Yeah.
I got that message of like, look after yourself, bro. And the second part of that message was, why do you believe it has to get harder for it to get better? Because I think that I have to, you know, for me to get ahead, bro, I think that I've got to work 10 times harder and it's going to get harder and harder and harder the more I want. So I'm scared to ask for, I'm scared to have desires because I think it's going to be more work. It's like, hey, bro, it gets better and it gets easier. That's what it was telling me after I said, okay, I'm going to love myself. I think this is important to circle back onto that look after yourself because it was telling me that. And as it was telling me this, giving me that real stern look after your body, all of it came up, all of the feelings and the thoughts and the beliefs that said I wasn't worthy to look after myself and love myself. And halfway through that physical sort of experience of purging, I said, okay, I will look after myself. I'll do it. I promise.
Yeah, I'm fucking sorry.
I'm sorry. And it's like, and the medicine just said, do not choose this from fear. Do not choose this because you're scared of pain.
Right. Choose it from courage.
Choose it because you know it's the right thing to do. And I was like, and instantly that was when I was like, okay, I'm going to love myself. And then it all started. Then it was 10 times more intense, the purging and the pain. But the pain now had meaning, and it wasn't something that I was trying to escape.
Wow, that is a little boy and a man right there in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm sorry to fucking let's go. And there is a bit more pain and more discomfort, but like I can do this.
Yeah.
No one's coming to save me. I can do it.
And I can look after myself.
Wow.
And then that was when it was like, okay, it gets better and it's going to get easier. It doesn't have to get harder, man. Like you can embrace this, and there's going to be challenging moments and there will be difficult times, but for the most part, it gets better and it gets easier, and you get to choose that. And then the last one, and this is the really important thing, is I think this is what a lot of people will deny in themselves, and they'll go and do what's the sensible thing to do in the world. The last thing was, if you want me to work with you, you've got to want to work with me. And that's what the medicine was speaking to me. It's not necessarily about me working and serving medicine and being a shaman, but it was almost like, hey, if you want to have a relationship with the deeper truth of who you are, you've got to want that. Because I want that with you, but you've got to want that with me. And I think a lot of men say that they wanted access to the deeper parts of themselves, but then they don't embody it. And I was one of those guys. I was like, yeah, I want depth and truth, and that's what my soul wants. But I was saying that, but not fully embracing that. So what that kind of gave to me is like, bro, anything that is not true, lay it on the fire. Give it up. Any relationships that you have with people, any things that you are doing in your life that are not of truth and are not in deep right relationship with your soul, on the fire. And don't fuck about because you've got a child coming. And stop fucking about. Not even because you've got a child coming, because it's pointless. Because eventually you're going to have to give it up anyway. And I was just like, oh. So that person I keep sort of like letting into my life that I don't fucking want in there, I can just say no. And it's like, yeah. Oh, and I don't have to fucking eat this shit food when I'm feeling shit. I can just go into nature and take a day off. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you mean embrace the things that are harder in the moment but are better in the long term?
Yeah.
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 That's it.
Yeah, it's like have this relationship of depth is going to ask you to let go of all of the bubble wrap, the comfort.
Yes. It's courage in every moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Access the courage to have an uncomfortable conversation or not eat something that you know is not healthy for you, or do the thing that is challenging. It's accessing the courage.
And the key thing, and like we can define courage a myriad of ways, but courage really is like it's action with an open heart. It's the appropriate action with an open heart. What's her name? I forgot her name, but she calls it vulnerability in action. That's what courage is. Okay. And vulnerability is really just, the truth. And that for me is like, it's well and good to be like, okay, I'm now tethered to this depth and I'm going to have boundaries and I'm going to tell people to fuck off if I don't like them or I don't want them. It's like, no, that's not.
It's not quite there.
It's not quite what I'm talking about. It's about, hey, like, do it with love.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Yes.
Deliver the truth with love. And, a lot of guys come and work with me at a point in their lives where they know what they should be doing, but their stories are too fucking loud for them to really access the courage to take action. And now
that's a tricky dance, isn't it?
Totally.
They know, so it's they can see it and they can hear it, but they can't get past the wall.
Yeah, they're living from the shoulders up.
Yeah,
because they know once they get down in here, shit's going to get wobbly. But we have this saying. We've started to sort of develop this vocabulary in our men's group around an honourable death. And I don't know if you, most people, if you're into samurai, but like samurai they would carry a smaller sword, which
seppuku.
Yeah. Yeah, and the act of using that is called, is it wazakashi or something like that? I can't remember what seppuku anyway is the sword. And we're saying like, have you got that with you?
Yeah.
Are you willing to give?
I think seppuku is when you take your own life with the sword, the act of doing that in order to have the honourable death in the place that you need to or something.
Yeah. So that is, we say, are you carrying that with you to give yourself an honourable death? Like where you're not willing to give to give away the truth or to abandon the truth. And the truth for a samurai is like, I will not be taken behind enemy lines. I will not be taken prisoner.
Yes.
And like that's what we say. Are you a prisoner of your stories? Because if you are, it's time to give yourself an honourable death. And like that may mean a relationship needs to end. It may mean that a career needs to end. It may mean that you need to move out of a certain environment and move somewhere else. And this is like those honorable deaths, when men give themselves an honorable, like that identity, an honorable death. Hey bro, thank you. Thank you for keeping me safe. This relationship was what I needed at the time, but it's now time to let it go. Boom. This career has served me up until now, and I no longer want to be a fucking accountant. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And liberating. Well, terrifying. I remember my friend Denny Redbard said, you know, the root of terrifying, it's not terrify, it's terrific. And I thought,
that's great.
He's such a he's a jester and a bard and a story. And I'm like, dude, okay, I get it. Yep, you've changed my perspective on terrified.
Yeah.
So that can be a but that's we carry that kind of the Sabuku kind of metaphor in our men's group to remind men that, hey, like honoring the truth is the only way forward, rather than being caught behind or caught in the cage of your story or beliefs that aren't true.
Yeah,
and that's terrible. You know, and that's why men's groups are so great. Not to hold people accountable and say, you know, if you don't do your 3 tasks that you said you would, 100 push-ups.
Sure.
That's military. I'm not that. I'm like, hey bro, honorable death. Samurai were warriors, not soldiers.
Yeah.
Like you are a warrior. Your weapons are compassion and insight, and through compassion and insight, you are connected to the deeper truth, and that is what we're here to hold you to.
And you inside know that the punishment of not having that honourable death will be worse than 100 push-ups. So I mean, when we're talking when we're talking about the soul, man, anything that isn't true is fucking debilitating. Yeah.
Would you rather live under the weight of a story that's crushing your soul for the rest of your life? Would you rather, liberate yourself and live in the essence of truth? Like that's the accountability we work with, which is not around like punishing men for not fucking, writing their affirmations every day, which is all well and good to have discipline. And I agree with that to a degree, but it has to have this like more of a warrior spirit rather than a military kind of enforcement. Yeah.
I think that coming back to what we're talking about with death in general and with needing to have those deaths within our life and deaths of certain stories, the thing about doing plant medicine and psychedelics that is so powerful is it can, because you can get there without doing those. You hold retreats, you hold experiences, and without any psychedelics at times, I'm sure, and you can do breath work, you can do there's so many things you can do that will get you there.
Yeah.
But when the psychedelics is once you have ingested, you're going.
That door you can't go back.
You can't go back.
Yep.
You can't hop off the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And you need the courage and the calling to do it. And I liked what you said before. It's like, don't listen to me about what I said. You need to feel it because it calls you. That's what happened to me. It called me, and it was calling me for a while before I mustered the courage to do it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I like about it is once you've done it, it's like, okay, here we go. And I'm going to, it is forced shadow work.
Yeah.
Here it comes. And those deaths happen without having to, if someone's in such a dark place where they're contemplating taking their own actual physical life, Well, those kind of things can happen within a psychedelic experience. My wife had that happen to her. She had a time when we did mushrooms together. She was sitting at the base of this tree, and she was reborn out of this tree. And then another time when we did DMT, she died. She had a death, and it was really frightening. And she came back, and she was a bit rattled, but she had shared so much, just like anxiety and stuff that she would carry around. And once she kind of was able to integrate it, which really didn't take long at all, I'm talking like half an hour, man, she was just like, so free. And she was like, I just experienced my own death.
What a gift.
Yeah.
Because then life has all this new meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm intrigued about with you is where did all this start? Like how did you get here to this point where you were wanting to do, were intrigued enough about the journey of self-discovery to stay on it, even though a lot of your peers don't? Because I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be in a group of friends in school and elsewhere that they don't want to talk about this kind of stuff. They don't want to go to those places, and you go, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Guess what? We're talking about ayahuasca. Get ready, strap in. It's hard, man. It's still hard for me. I still feel a lot of self-worth struggles around money, and a lot of my mates run multi-million-dollar businesses and are very, very successful in the financial realms and the leadership realms in that regard. And I'm not, and I really struggle with that. But when it comes to spiritual integrity and connection to self, spirit, and nature, like I'm really, really locked in. So what kind of called me onto this path was really I worked at a health food store. I met my wife. She was a customer. We started journeying together, and I had an experience with Wachuma where I sat down and drank the medicine, and I laid down and I slept on this rock, and it felt like that rock was made for me to lay on. And when I woke up from this sleep, which felt like I'd never slept, so I felt like I'd never relaxed like that before. I then turned around and I felt, when I breathed, I felt the earth breathe with me. And I felt the creek running. I felt as if it was my own blood in my veins. And as the trees started to sway, I felt them almost as if they were my fingertips. And I felt this undeniable oneness with nature. Of the earth. And from there, I experienced many, many, many beautiful, beautiful ceremonies over in Peru. Went and worked over in Peru with some incredible teachers there, and went to all these sacred sites and got to meet what we call the masters, which are the mountains, the Apus, and they hold the energetic signature of the ancestors. And we meet all these beautiful masters, which are now like allies and teachers for me. And it's how I cultivate the capacity to do a lot of the work that I do and hold the vision that I do. And through that medicine work, I cultivated a capacity to hold a certain field of presence and depth that I can then deliver transformative experiences to men. And it's not even me. It's all of the ones that are in support of, that are helping me, that I believe allows me to do what I do. And I'm not saying that I'm fucking the guru, or I'm just like, this is my work. And in Peru, it's the same. The shamans, the medicine, or the Quero, the medicine men, they go up, they pray, they hold ceremony, they come down and they have dinner with their family. It's not this separate thing. It's a part of life. It's their job. And this is where I'm really aware of it. Like, it's my job. It's not, I'm not saving the world. This is just this is a job in many different cultures. The shaman or the healer was a job.
And I remember hearing something about the shaman's mentality in these, traditional shamans is a lot of them are like, I don't want to be a shaman. It's not what I wanted to be, but I don't have a choice. This is what I am.
My soul won't let me do anything else.
I've been called to this, and it's what I do. Well, and a lot of those guys, they take the medicine like more so than the other people. So they're getting fucked up all the time. They're they're going to these depths consistently, and it's got to be man, that's a heavy life.
Yeah, and Sacred Rage was born from a mixture of the medicine work that I did and some retreats that I attended, and I curated this experience where in one day we can clear some really, really deep dark shit as if you were. And we've had men have psychedelic experiences through that shadow work process that we deliver. And it's phenomenal. And it changes men's lives and it helps them heal. And I'm like, fuck, this is my job. And it's work because I'm fucking tired after it and I want to go and have a pizza and a beer and I want to knock off.
Yeah.
So me trying to make it more than what it is me just creating a grandiosity complex of like, I'm the grand fucking guru that's going to save you. No, it's just my fucking job. I help people clear fucking trauma. I help people see what's really true and help them stay tethered to that so they can live a life that is truly fulfilling. I want men that are connected to their themselves, that are connected to nature and are connected to spirit. Because when you're connected to yourself, you're free. When you're connected to nature, you are loved. And when you're connected to spirit, you can experience, possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, why? Who doesn't want that? You don't need an Aston Martin. You don't need a beachfront house to experience that. You can experience that anywhere you want. And if you have the beach house and the Aston Martin, awesome. If you have the fucking Hilux and you rent in Palm Beach like I do, awesome. If you fucking live in, whoop whoop and you don't even have a car, awesome. Like if you have those three things, you will find a sense of fulfillment. And quite often less is more anyway. That's what I'm learning. For men anyway, like this is where like the value of my work can be confronting, and the same kind of thing happens in a lot of spaces where men, for guys who have self-worth and are leaders or healers, it's like the shit's fucking simple.
Yeah.
That's the painful bit. It's like, but the value is in its simplicity. It's like a lot of men come and spend 3 months with me and I don't really do anything revolutionary. I just stay tethered to the truth and I keep guiding them back to it just gently. Hey, here's a framework. Boom. Hey, can you see how this relationship that you're in is actually limited because you're still tethered to your mother and you're not fully choosing? Do you have commitment issues? No, you're just tethered to your mother. Once you cut that, you'll now be able to see the fullness of the feminine in your woman. You'll see that she is the one that you're choosing. Let's talk about that. Boom. And that all came through on an ayahuasca journey, which gave me a really confronting look at how I was still not fully choosing my wife and my direct family, which is Meg and the baby in her belly. My second family is my parents and my siblings. They're no longer my primary family. A lot of men can't say that because they like, I don't want to hurt my mum's feelings.
Yeah.
Cool, bro. And Meg's my family. The baby in her belly is my family.
Yes.
They're the ones that I live with. My parents, I see them regularly, but they're not my primary family anymore.
Yep.
So I have to be really clear on that. I can still receive their support and love, but this is the thing. If I have to choose one, I'm choosing Meg. And that's a really confronting thing because that then exposes you to the vulnerability. Maybe one day she'll leave. Maybe one day she can leave if she wants. My mum can't. My mum's tethered to me by blood.
Yes.
My wife's tethered to me by love.
Yeah.
And love is something that we must cultivate between us.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, man.
Mum's the safe option.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have definitely felt what you are describing since becoming a dad.
Yeah.
That has shifted, and my number one family is my daughter and my wife that I live with, that I spend all my time with and working at the forefront of my mind and heart. And it's a transition.
Yeah. I had this is where that whole concept was born from, where I had a very physical experience during an ayahuasca ceremony. Was I went into a visualization where I was handed a revolver, like a really beautiful stainless steel, like Western revolver. And I opened the chamber and it had one bullet in it. And I closed it and I sort of spun it around and put the bullet in place. And when I looked up, my mother and at the time, she's now my wife, Meg, was standing side by side. And the voice of the medicine or whatever was guiding me was just like, pick one.
Whoa.
And it was a real kind of confronting experience of like, you have to choose. This is a moral dilemma.
Wow.
There's no in between here. You have to choose one. And it's quite funny. I've
That's
asked,
a confronting way to go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there can be this what's the right word for it? There's this the coward's way out is to kill self. is to shoot yourself and let the mother and the partner live. Which is to completely deny the life moving through it, to deny our own life, which is the issue we have now. Men killing themselves because they don't feel like they can make a choice.
Yes, they have to sacrifice everything about themselves in order to prop up. Yeah,
which is a common, which is men. That's why wars are fought, so men can go and prove how much they love the land that they live on and the women that they care for. War is a grand fucking. We want to bleed for the ones that we love. I get it. And this is why this visualization was so powerful, because it was like, well, that's not an option. I'm not killing myself. That was never, and I had to choose, and I had to choose to shoot my mum, which metaphorically meant she is no longer the primary woman in my life. Meg is. That's what it was asking me. It wasn't asking me to go and shoot my mum in the head, literally.
Yes.
It was like, choose a primary woman in your life.
Yes.
And make that decision final.
Yeah. Yeah, and perhaps for you personally, the visualization and the metaphorical act of it being a gun and shooting is what you needed to be able to be like, this is you need to do something powerful.
So the whole concept for a lot of men is like, we need a certain level of intensity for it to mean something.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever played sport with people that aren't at your skill level, and they're a lot shitter.
Every time, mate. No, I'm kidding.
But I'm sure you've been in an environment where your skill level is above someone else's dramatically.
Yeah.
Whether it's music or the game is a lot less fun.
Yeah. Well, it's not even a game. It's like a teaching.
It doesn't mean as much.
Yeah, totally. So whereas when you play with someone who's a little bit better than you, that's when it's really good.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I think I can. You can't, but you're like, maybe 1 out of 10 I can win.
So we're for us to expand or grow, we need the intensity to be more than we can handle.
Yes.
By default. So that visualization was more than I could handle.
Sure.
So when I made the decision,
it had an impact.
It had impact. It helped. I grew from it. I expanded from it. Purged again.
And then probably also gave you so much gratitude for your mother, because you've made the decision to do this. You haven't, your mother's still with us.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, I really love you, Mum, but this has changed now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It allowed her to just be my mum, not the main woman in my life.
Yeah.
So now.
And that's got to be a difficult thing for people of our parents' generation, or any parent who has well, I'm trying to use the right words. The kids who are not kids.
Yeah.
Like when you get to the point where I am your son, but I am no longer your child.
Yeah. So
that's an interesting.
What would a man normally do when he wants to marry a woman? What's the traditional thing to do?
Well, he would ask the father.
Yeah.
If for her hand, and ask for his permission,
which would be, hey, I now want to be the primary man in her life that she relies on and can turn to for support.
I want to take, and that's why the father walks her down the aisle and hands her to the new man.
So there is a whole dynamic built into our traditions for that woman's rite of passage.
Yes.
What is there for men?
There's so many instances where that doesn't exist. Like even as you talked about before, the menstrual cycle, that is something where it's like it or not, as a female, you are becoming a woman. It's time, it's happening, and you cannot stop it.
And what happens when men go through puberty? It's like, this now he's stinking and he's bloody,
a couple of clunky.
There's no celebration. There's no,
and there's nothing. Forgive me for being crude, but there's nothing messy that you have to deal with.
No.
Like there is a physical thing that a woman has to go, you have to deal with this.
And that she now must carry. Like it's now, it's repeat. For men, like the pubescent stage is like, okay, cool. All right, my voice cracks. All right, I start to fucking grow a bit hair here, there, and everywhere.
Boners.
Yeah. There is this, there's not a something that becomes cyclical. It's like, this happens, all right, growth spurt, all right, now this is who I am. Whereas for a woman, it's like now you are on a 28-day cycle from now until menopause, and then that's when that'll open you up to the stage of crone, which is the sort of the eldership that you're being called into, which is a wisdom keeper. So for men, we don't honor that time celebratory. my wife, she told me about when she began her menstrual cycle, like her family like celebrated her. Like they all like said, congratulations, they were excited for her. They all went out to dinner and celebrated it. And I remember I thought I was like, fuck, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember
how empowering for her
totally.
as a young woman to not have to feel, I don't need to feel shame.
Yeah.
I don't need to feel embarrassed.
I was terrified of puberty. I refused to let anyone see me. I tried to not, and I remember like teaching myself to shave because I was so embarrassed to even ask my dad. I was terrified of what it meant to become a man.
See, it's funny. I was the opposite because I was late. And my old man, he told me too. He was like, I was a late bloomer too. So like everyone else around me was going through puberty, and I was still this little boy with no armpit hair and anything. I was
that
like,
was
fuck.
me. Yeah, that was me as well. And I was ashamed and I was scared.
Yeah.
I was like, when's it going to happen? And I was like kind of on the edge of my seat. But by the time, I remember being so short and squeaky, and I'd also smashed my mouth on my push bike, so I had a mouthful of braces and a big scar on my lip. I was just terrified.
It's such a messy time, isn't it?
I don't feel that we have the cultural structure to honor that, hey, this is a pretty fucking rough time, because you're going through it. You're going through a passage.
And there's something else that's tough for males. Typically, females go through it earlier. So your peers are almost women, and you're still this little boy, and you're trying so hard to not be a little boy, but you don't know how to not do it, and your body's not catching up, and it's clunky.
Yeah. So that's they say that, that's why rites of passage exist, because we don't have the physicality or the biological structure that women have that, literally ties them to the cycles of nature. And yeah, man, I don't think there's no one fix that we can plug into society other than just like have conversations like this and then start to structure our lives so we're honoring that, hey, we are men, we are natural beings, therefore we operate in cycles. So let's stop looking at life as a point A to point B and actually look at it like, okay, let's look at the time on the clock, or let's feel into, okay, cool, it's time to rest.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time to go out and fast and look at and strip away the layers.
Yeah.
What does this year represent? What does this season of fatherhood represent for me? Where am I falling short? What do I need to tidy up?
Embracing responsibility.
Yeah. And
calling it in.
And the only way we can really choose responsibility or choose to embrace responsibility is to remove ourselves from what we are responsible for, take a breath, and then choose again. So what really you want to create a space of no demand. Hey, I'm taking my 10 days. Hey, lover, every year I take 10 days. This year I'm going to Warwick, or I'm going down to Gibraltar Range. I'm going to sit with the fucking granite on the granite belt. I'm going to sit with this mountain down there. I'm going to take 10 days just to be on the land and just recalibrate and, be able to choose again. And that's a vulnerable thing to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful.
Yeah, and that to me is, if men did that, like shit would change dramatically.
I'm just thinking about doing it now.
Yeah.
I really want to start integrating these practices, and it's daunting. Just the thought of it, I can feel it in my chest.
Yeah,
the thought of doing that, and the thought of saying, "All right, babe, I'm off. I'm going, and I'll be back in 10 days." I've never done that. I love that.
Yeah, I did that before our wedding. I went up and did a 10-day. It was called Becoming the Wolf. Fucking loved it.
Becoming the Wolf?
Yeah. If he's down this way, he'll be down this way soon. He'd be a great guy to have on. His name's Adam Kavanagh.
Okay.
And he's a hunter. He's a bushman. Cool. And we went up to the Gulf, just a place called Dumaji, which is like 10 hours north of Mount Isa.
Oh, wow.
And we're on Gungalita and Wanyi country. The mob's up there on either side of the road. And I spent 10 days in the bush hunting and foraging with him. Whoa. Sleeping in a swag.
Oh.
And literally, amazing. I took 10 days and I said, I'm offline for 10 days. No one can. All my bills were paid. All my emails were sent. Boom, I'm offline for 10 whole days.
That's amazing.
Phone in the glove box, and we just drove out, and I chased wild animals, ate wild bull, and cut testicles out of a bull and ate them. We're eating raw liver from the and catching barra and mangrove jack, and we caught goannas and freshwater crocs and did all this crazy shit. But what I was doing was I was just feeding my soul and connecting to nature and spirit.
And disconnecting from probably a lot of the
from
junk.
The noise. Yeah, man. Yeah,
mate, if you ever do that again, I'm keen.
I know we're in talks to organise it for next year to do something for 10 days with men and create a really powerful experience, because, you know, we did, like, a lot of the hunting was a spiritual practice. It wasn't about just going out there and yahooing. You know, we caught a bull, a small, like, teenage size one, not the big ones, but we grabbed him and tackled him and got it to the ground, and then we didn't just kill it. We had to tie it up and let it calm down. Let the stress response actually simmer down and let the animal calm down. And I had to go over and sharpen a knife for 20 minutes and sit there. So sharpen a knife and then sit for 20 minutes and contemplate what it means to kill something.
That, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
Because this is completely, we're removed from this. If you're going to eat animals, an animal has to die.
Yeah.
And this is what has to happen. Somebody has to do it if it's going to happen.
And I had to, like, we there's a thing called persistence hunting, which is literally just running animals down.
Whoa.
Which was what I was.
Just cardio.
Yeah, which I was, like, so excited for. And that was what I wanted to do. So Adam's a bow hunter as well, so I'm keen to do some bow hunting, but essentially I wanted to just run the animals down. But then that meant that I had to be very intimate with the killing of these animals. It wasn't from afar or with a gun or with a bow. And yeah, I had to get up close and personal with, you know, nicking open the skin and then plunging my arm, like, almost up to my elbow into its chest and stab its heart. And, like, literally watch the life drain from its eyes. And I was bawling my eyes out with my hand on it, saying thank you and, you know, in deep gratitude. And it felt like I was in Avatar. I don't know if you've seen the blue, the show with all the blue people, and, like, they kill the animal and they pray over it, say thank you for, you know, for the gift of your, you know, your life and the sustenance that you'll give the community. I literally felt like I was having a spiritual experience as I killed this animal. And I'm sure the vegans will have a crack at me, and I don't really care, but this was a really powerful experience because we cut that animal up into pieces, into the appropriate pieces, took it back and gave it to the family who allowed us to go onto that land to hunt.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful feeling to go and gift, you know, kilos and kilos of meat to this beautiful family. Elijah was his name and his family, and all the kids are running around grabbing, you know, the brisket, the ribs, and all of this amazing meat. And then we took the heart and we went and did a ceremony and we cooked the heart, and it was the first thing that we ate.
Wow.
And we actually, we cooked it up, we set up the altar, lit the fire and shook the rattle, and we're just shaking and it's just like, hey, Anna, hey, hey, Anna, hey, hey, Anna, hey, Anna. And then the wild brumbies started to circle us. It was like, I'm getting goosebumps. I felt like I was levitating, but I had my eyes and, like, the open eyes, and these horses are running around us as I'm singing. And then as we, like, slowly calmed down, these horses just whinnied and ran off. And we cooked the heart and we ate it. And it was like, I've never had something like that happen to me before.
There's some primal, tribal stuff.
Like, I'm connected, you know, all those three things, nature, spirit, and self, that were all converging and sort of collapsing in on each other to create this truly unique experience that could never have happened if I hadn't have prioritized those 10 days for me.
And something so interesting about that is the process, because I was vegan for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And the process that you just described is actually so much more respectful than going down to the shop and buying something that's wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
Because you're honoring what's happened. This animal's lived in the wild, was as healthy as it could have been.
Yeah.
It's going to die somehow.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be almost definitely going to be a worse death than the one that you gave it. And that animal is now feeding so many people for a very long time instead of, like, well, that's a beautiful situation. That's as beautiful a situation as you can get when you're taking an animal for food.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's the circle of life. That's you know, once again, we keep I keep carrying on about circles, but I'm so obsessed and I don't know how else to. But it's the circle of life, and we're a part of it. And if we try to remove ourselves from the circle of life, things become imbalanced and they become linear and they become logical and they become analytical. And the worst part is they become sanitized. So what happens when things become sanitized? We lose our connection to nature, which means that
Become plastic.
our system doesn't actually work. That's when inflammation occurs. That's when immune system fucks up. That's when our eyesight starts to deteriorate. That's when cancer starts to come
unnatural.
All this stuff, all these unnatural things start to occur in what should be a natural experience, which is having a body. So
that's an incredible experience.
And I just want to I don't tell that story to say I'm fucking cool. I tell that story to say, hey,
it is pretty cool though.
It's a fucking cool story.
Yeah. You can be pretty cool.
Yeah. But I just want to say,
I'll say it.
I just would love men to understand that that happened because I chose to take those 10 days for me.
Yeah.
I chose to invest the money right before my wedding, which was an expensive fucking wedding, incredible experience. But I chose to take my money that I earned and invest it into an experience for myself, which now continues to live on through me as story. And now I've got a unique story that I can share.
Yeah.
And if you don't have stories and you're constantly saying shit that you read in books or that you heard at a seminar, you're basic.
Yep.
And when the crunch comes or when the moment comes for you to step up and have your flea moment where you let life move through you, you're gonna fuck it up. You're gonna be sanitized and you're gonna say shit without any depth, without any life, and you're going to just be another fucking carbon copy. Yeah, and that's the real tragedy.
What you're describing is to quote Terence McKenna, the direct presence of felt experience.
Correct.
It's something that to be true because you lived it. You did it.
Yeah, man.
You could read about that experience in a book and there's a lot of wisdom there, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a knowing. This is a journey that you went through. And
that's how humanity continues to human is through the sharing of stories. I sat with Uncle Steve. He's at the elder at Gelerngal at Burleigh at the cultural centre, and he's our sort of the man who welcomes us onto the land at the gathering of men. And we went up and sat for nearly an hour talking about stories about the land, about the beginning of time, and the young warrior Gowanda who became the dolphin, and all of these incredible stories. And I'm like, where did these stories come from? He's like, oh, they got passed down, and they become these enriching mythological kind of stories that enchant you and almost bring you into this childlike wonder of wow. And even to the point where he was telling me a story about catching echidna when he was out working on the land, and they call echidna buneen. And he was telling how he caught two, and they ate one, and they had the second one tied up. And after a day or two, he kind of became quite fond of this second one. And in the nighttime, he let it loose.
Yeah.
And all of the men woke up. They're like, oh, we're looking forward to eating it today. He's like, oh, I don't know where he's gone. He got away. And I was just those stories only exist because a man had the courage to live them.
Yes.
And that is what I'm really, really concerned about is how do we create more experiences so men have more stories to create a more enchanting, enriching, meaningful life and meaningful roles for when children come and ask them questions, they've got a story rather than just, oh, let's look on Google.
Yeah. Dude, I spoke to a guy he's in Canada. His name's Evan Meyer, and he's great. It was it was a really profound podcast, and he talked a lot about the domestication of humans.
Yeah.
And it was speaking to exactly what you're talking about, and he runs men's groups as well, and this exact thing.
Yeah.
He's like, we need to undomesticate and go out and have experiences and feel things for ourselves and tell stories about them. Yeah.
I love camping for me is the ultimate. It's so accessible. I love not having a shower for 3 or 4 days. I love not taking a toothbrush.
Yeah.
I love being a bit
just
gross.
get grotty.
And
go in the creek.
Yeah. And it happens, and it's people think it's the end of the world, but it's not. It's the beginning of a relationship with nature.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the any attempt to sanitize yourself and not. I guess there's levels to this. I like flushing toilets, and I like air conditioning on a hot day, and there's nothing better than a cold drink when it's 42 degrees. But on I'm not going to deny my access to the modern niceties, but where am I not giving myself the wild experience that I know is necessary for me to stay connected to that unique part of me?
Yeah, well, to be a mammal.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why we get vitamin D from the sun.
Yeah.
Because you're meant to be in it.
Yeah. And that's, and I think that, that those sort of things are like, we can become so self-absorbed and egocentric, which has been very much my journey. I become this kind of all-seeing, all-knowing that everything revolves around me. But when I go back into nature, I realize that there's so much more to me because I'm now starting to feel more of myself in other things, which that tree becomes, it starts to have a new meaning when I'm on the land and I start to feel it. The goanna that, scurries past, or I see the turtle's head pop up in the river, or the swallows flying in formation erratically. It's like all these things start to like reflect back my natural state, which then brings me closer to the other, which creates connection. And that's why I think men who don't have a connection with nature will struggle to have a connection with women or honor the connection that women desire.
Do you ever watch that show Alone?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, I've only I've only seen one season.
Yeah,
but the thing that I found so beautiful about it was there was a spiritual transformation that occurred in a majority, especially the longer these folks stayed out there, it was just really great to see actual reality TV.
Yeah,
an actual it was beautiful, and they're alone, and they're out there, and because they're alone with nature, finding their own food, finding their own shelter, and journaling it to a camera.
Yeah,
they have to share their feelings.
Yeah,
and it's funny at first like, this is pretty slow. It's because I'm used to fucking scrolling and the bullshit. But then after sticking with it, I was captivated by that show and the spiritual transformation. That's what I got the most out of. And then there was one dude who was like so devastated that he was killing these animals to eat them, and he was having that whole moral struggle and profound stuff.
He's living it, right?
Yeah.
And that's, we weave a lot of spiritual threads through the work that we do, but we don't present or perform them. We weave them. And before people know it, they're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit.
It sneaks up on them, yeah.
They're like,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, all of a sudden there's like movement and there's flow and there's like this lack of resistance and this, these things that happen on the retreats, they're magical. There's like you say with the ceremonies and the experiences you've had, there's an ineffability that we can't put them into words. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the integration, is learning how to communicate and translate the experiences that we've had in a healthy and open way. And that's what we do at the Gathering of Men, man. We create a deeply transformative experience by giving men the opportunity to connect to themselves, connect to nature, and connect to spirit through challenge, through celebration, and through brotherhood.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so let's talk about so the work that you're doing, Gathering of Men, what is it?
It's a 4-day immersive experience for men to pretty much disengage from society and the modern world and spend time on the land with men, going through a series of experiences that will reveal the deeper truth of who they are. And the way that we sort of formulate this is that we have a beautiful arc which takes them on this journey, but essentially we're just providing ways in which they can be challenged spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, and energetically. And there's some deep shadow work that we do. There's some physical challenge, physical exertion and warrior training that we do. We captivate them with poetry and song and myth. We invite them to vision, create a vision for their lives. We feed them spray-free and organic where possible whole foods that is cooked on site. We eat together. We're right next to a running creek. We're surrounded by and nestled in this beautiful series of mountains. We have a ceremonial fire that's lit for 4 days and does not go out. And that's the actual thing that's in service to the brotherhood, not me, not any of the other facilitators. The fire, we pray to the fire and the fire facilitates us. It's the grandfather spirit.
Yeah, wow.
And we do breath work there, of course. We can't have a men's retreat without breath work.
Yeah.
We do a beautiful breath work ceremony. And woven within that, we've got 15 amazing facilitators who are going to be running a workshop each. And every man will get the chance to go along to 3 of those 15 workshops.
Wow, it's a big thing. 15 facilitators, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to have 200 men there, including the facilitation and crew team, 150 participants all up.
Wow.
And essentially, man, it's a way of us like amplifying all of the work that the men's coaches, all the facilitators and myself are doing in our own community. So we're all coming together to really amplify the work that we're doing, because it is necessary to one day have this not be separate from society. We want this to infiltrate society and be part of like a cornerstone of the societal structure that we've got.
Give people the tools in this environment.
Yeah.
Take it out, share it with their own little community, with their own circle.
Yeah. Why we say the work we do on the mountain is only as good as the integration of it in the home.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just going to dream world and hopping on a roller coaster.
And that comes back to the psychedelics with that stuff too. Yeah. You know, it's all good and well to have these downloads, but if you can't integrate them into your life, exactly.
Yeah, that's why it's important to have people around you that are walking the path, so you can converse.
Yeah,
and if you're discombobulated, they can be like, okay, tell me about it, and support you in finding your way back to some kind of formation after a truly transcendental dissolving.
Yeah. A very close friend of mine who lives in Los Angeles he would facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies.
Yeah.
And he held space so well. He's an interesting guy. He did really well. And I never did a ceremony. Yeah. I did smoke DMT with him. Yeah. And the way that he described DMT, because he's done so many ceremonies, was he was like, oh yeah. I was like, I've come back from this mind-blowing trip, completely changed me. And I was telling him about what my experience was. He was there and facilitating for me. And then he said, I was like, what do you think about it? And he was like, yeah, I feel like it's like a fun YouTube video because he's comparing that to the long form of doing the actual ayahuasca thing. And just his perspective on that was like, yeah, I mean, it's all over in 5, 6, 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just great. It was like, wow, you're deep, man.
Yeah. And that's, it's so funny because everyone's experience is slightly different, but there are these common things here where DMT, it is the shorter, more explosive kind of, hey, here's God, say g'day. Yeah. And ayahuasca is a deep kind of visceral, let's go deep and weave and almost like serpent our way through the underworld. And then Wachuma is kind of a slower, more let's go for a drive and watch the scenery change. And then like mushrooms for me feel like the cheeky older cousin that's going to show me all of the secrets of the universe, slip me a beer, show me a porno, do this kind of like show me all the intricacies of the.
Hey, check this out.
Yeah, hey, check this out.
Yeah, you've seen this. You're like, whoa.
And it gives you access to all these different things that maybe you hadn't had the capacity to before because of the beliefs. But yeah, man, I'm really passionate about any kind of like appropriate space that facilitates a deeper level of awareness. That can then be integrated into actual life. Yep.
Transformative work with integration and being able to maintain the transformation.
Correct.
Because as you said at the very beginning, circle back.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, it was about how easy it is to just be. You come back to the world a changed person, and then the world changes you back to itself.
Yeah.
That's real easy to just fall back into that instead of going, no, how do I maintain the new lessons that I've got from whatever it might be, solo camping trip, breath work, most intense psychedelic experience of my life. How do I maintain these lessons back in the world?
And that's
tricky.
Yeah, that is. And it's like, for me, I've plugged into like lineage with Roots of the Earth from Mexico and then my other bros from Peru. And like these lineages, they've got depth and they've got generations that have been passed down. So what I've found is that when you connect to a lineage that really resonates with you, you then find that they've got this beautiful structure for harmony. It's like, yeah, Vision Quest happens once a year. Awesome. We do Sweat Lodge once a month. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Top up.
Yeah.
They keep,
look after you.
I think that's so necessary.
Yeah. Tend to the land. invite people over for a barbecue.
Yeah.
Be in right relationship with yourself, with nature, with spirit. Spend time with your family. Take an hour a day for yourself.
These are maintenance techniques that are required for maintenance.
Yeah. And you'll just, you could call it, soul maintenance if you wanted to.
Soul maintenance. Yeah. That's great. That's a great name for a brand.
Yeah. That's, I'm going to start a workshop space. I'm going to hire out a warehouse, soul maintenance.
Soul maintenance.
That is where that's why the linear structure doesn't suit men in the personal development space, because they think it's one and done.
Sure.
And that's what I'm really...
It's not achievement unlocked.
No.
It's not a video game.
No, not at all. It's that now requires you to... Like, spirit will only stay connected at the level you're willing to stay connected to it. Nature will only stay connected to you at the level you're willing to stay connected to it. Your soul will only stay connected to you the level you're willing to stay connected to it, until the midlife crisis, until chaos.
Until you pop.
Yeah. The wife leaves with the kids. You get the redundancy. You get the bad news from the doctor. The car accident happens.
Yep.
You slip a disc.
Fuck, I've done that.
Yeah. All of these things, they're all pointing you back to, hey, there's something that wants to evolve, or there's a bend in the river. Stop trying to go straight.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. It's a noble path, man. It's not easy, and it's interesting to hear you say, like, fuck, sometimes I want to knock off and drink a beer and have a pizza. Like,
sometimes man.
It's a heavy load.
Yeah, and like I said, my soul won't let me do anything else, so I'm most as well fucking hop in the car with them. Be like, fuck, where are we going? And be like, kicking and screaming, I'm not going.
Yeah, resistance is
hey
futile.
man, where are we going?
Yeah,
tell me.
Yeah,
and I've still got a lot to learn in my life, man. I'm still figuring out the business side of things. I'm still learning a lot around systems and structure, but that's what I'm here to do. That's my dharma. That's my life path, is to develop more of the structure so the flow can continue rather than it just be these one-off moments.
Yeah, man. Good for you. And new bub any minute now.
Yeah, man. Meg's 36 weeks, so it's kind of it's crazy. I put a post up yesterday. It was quite a funny one. It's like, Oasis is getting back together. T-Gom's about to happen. My wife's pregnant and baby's coming any minute now. It's like, this could be the best month of my life. And as soon as I posted that, man, I felt like after that, everything just fucking toppled down on top of me. I'm like, fuck, all right. All of the things that I've ever wanted are happening all at once. Can I actually hold this?
Yeah.
Can I actually be okay receiving all this? Oh, I don't know. Like, that's the big thing, man. It's like one of the craziest things, and I won't go down a whole nother rabbit hole, but what I've found for me is that sometimes it's not about, sometimes I just need to, how do I say this appropriately? I struggle because sometimes my cup is, I hold onto a small cup, and that cup represents the amount of love I can receive. And life wants to fill that cup up times 10 sometimes. And it overflows, and I'm like, no, I've had enough. So I push away the people that want to love me. I push away the spirit who wants to give me more. I push away nature, and I say, no, I've got enough. I only need a little bit. And I think for a lot of men, it's not around holding back everyone. I think it's about like, okay, I think I need a bigger cup. What do I need to do to create a bigger cup to let these people in?
Have the capacity to let it in,
And that's can be a really, really confronting experience, because if we look at the cup is the opening to your heart. So sometimes you've got to crack your heart open a bit more, and that can be really, really confronting to actually go into it. And that normally heart opening experiences are associated with grief, which is the thing that'll open you up to even more love.
Yes.
You know what it's like having a dog, man.
We talked about that before. That one's that's rough.
Yeah.
And it did change me when he passed away. Yeah, a lot. And it was interesting because as an adult, and I've talked about this before, but it is something that I find to be quite intriguing, is because we've got this little girl in our house now, right? She's a little kid. She's having so many new experiences, so many, and she takes them in her stride. Sometimes she flips out, but that's okay. Majority of the time, she's so good at it. She's like, oh, wow, cool. Well, this is a new thing. Whereas as an adult, we just have less and less and less new experiences, especially really profound ones.
Yep.
And going through the grief of our dog dying was I mean, I've been through grief before, but not like that. Like I've lost grandparents but no one that I was directly responsible for.
I'm obsessed with grief and the whole concept of it, but was there any experience that was reawakened when your dog passed? Was there anyone or anything that kind of came back to the surface?
It came back?
Yeah, like maybe something you hadn't like fully gone into from the past.
You know, maybe I haven't made sense of it.
Yeah,
but it really messed me up.
Yeah,
because he was a dog that you know, he was my dog.
Yeah,
you know, he was both of our dog, but he was my best friend.
Yeah,
and he was pretty lame from when we got him.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of care and I kind of took on that role. And that was one of the first times that I've done that in my life. I've been taken care of a lot in my life. I've been very privileged in that way. And my wife's a real doer, you know, so she gets stuff done. And so for me, that was a new experience in that. And then taking care of him as he was dying, I really took that on board and it stirred up a lot, but I don't know specifically if it was something that had come from the past. Maybe it was, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I've just read a book around how dogs are really beautiful teachers for a lot of people around grief. They teach us how to feel grief. Yeah. And quite often people who have trouble feeling the grief of losing a loved one or losing a friend or losing a career or a relationship, they get this dog and this dog loves them. And then when the dog dies, it's more appropriate to grieve the dog than it was what you lost.
Interesting.
Before. And I've just been, you know, that's why I asked that question. It's like, it's nice to sort of contemplate. It's like, what gift is this animal giving me? Because it's allowing me to feel so deeply. And maybe there's other things that I didn't have access to this level of feeling because it's not societally acceptable or whatever. And maybe it is, you know, to lose a dog people get it. People know what it's like because dog's just God spelled backwards and God is unconditional love, bro. And that's what they're here to do, you know?
There was something, you know, godly about this dude. He was one of those dogs that would just sit and he'd just look you in the eyes. You know, he'd come up because he was a big pit bull lab, put his head on the table and just, oh man. And he'd just hang out. He'd be like, well, what's going on? And he was so old. Like, he was such a good friend. It really, I think you're right though. The point, I could talk about him for ages, but I won't go into it. But the point that you're making is perhaps a bunch of stuff that I hadn't grieved over in my life came out as well. Yeah. In that, because, you know, I'd find myself just in the kitchen making some eggs or something. Then all of a sudden I'm on the floor, just sobbing. And that it took a good 6 months for me to really kind of shake it. And I saw a dog the other day. This was a few years ago. This is probably four years ago now. Yeah. But I went to a rehearsal for a gig the other day, and the studio dog, dead ringer for him. And I was late for the rehearsal, and I couldn't, and I just sat outside and hung out with him for a while. Yeah. And I was, and then the owner was like, "Yeah, he's all right, man. Hang out." He was old, and I was like, "Wow, this is tripped me out." Then I kind of, you know, crying a little bit, and then I went in to go to rehearsal. All right, guys, let's go. Let's rock. Here we go. Yeah. Pull it together. Yeah. Yeah, man.
What a gift, like, though. Like, these, I think that's, you know, a lot of men struggle to feel deeply, and that's something that I still wrestle with. I think all men do, because there is a level of, like, stoic approach to life, and we do have a responsibility and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, when it comes to a dog that's a companion, you know, for me, that can be such a gift, in it allows us to feel at a depth which then can open us up to feeling other things that may not have been addressed. And you know, that's me probably thinking too much, but I do believe.
Checks out, man.
But if we look at it, you know, dogs, they're animals. They're pretty connected to their primal nature, so they really bring through the essence of our connection to nature, to the animal world, and allows us to then have that.
It's a grounding every day.
Totally.
But it's also a companion. Yeah. Yeah. That you are responsible for their well-being.
And they love you.
They really do.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like this animal like imprints on you, and then you get to build a relationship with it and it's crazy. You can't use words and they can't use words. You can say it, but it's not that. It's the energy that you're sharing. It teaches. It's taught me a lot having a dog recently. Again, to realize, there's this whole other energetic relationship, this energetic communication that goes on, and it doesn't matter if I was telling regardless of the words I'm saying, it's the energy that those words are coming through that is important. It's the same when I'm talking to my wife. It's the same when I'm talking to her belly. It's the same when I'm talking to clients. Same that you and me talking right here. I'm sure there's so much beneath what we're saying that I feel deeply connected to you, and I feel like I've known you, which is an uncanny thing to say, but it's because of the depth that we're sharing at that it's like, there's a soul connection here, and that's not to say, at our core we're all soulmates. We all come from the same place, right?
I believe that. Yeah, and it's a real privilege to be able to do this and to be able to do it on a level where I know that you're available to share that on that depth, and I love doing it. That's why I do this podcast because I crave being able to have deep, vulnerable connections with people.
Yep.
And sometimes people aren't available for that.
Totally.
So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to create an environment where I can do that,
The podcast, that's the
whole podcast. You're trapped.
The whole podcast culture, look at it. It's so, men love it.
Yeah.
Men love it because it's an opportunity for us to have deeper conversations around shit that we don't normally talk about.
Yep.
Whether it's biohacking, whether it's around certain things, but for me, it's like, I get to relate with people at a depth that nourishes me and I feel adds value to them, and that's really what I love to do. So how good, bro.
Let's wrap it up, man. It's been I don't know how long we've gone for, but
I feel like if we start talking again, we'll just keep going.
I feel like there's so many different places, mate. So where can people find you?
Instagram at the Jacob O'Neill, and all of my information's there. We've got a Facebook and an Instagram for the Gathering of Men, but you'll find it all on my personal page. And we run that every year, and then we run workshops and different experiences throughout the year as well. It's all really around redefining the education system for men so they can understand where they're at in their cycle of manhood and what responsibilities that they may be resisting. And we then provide them opportunities to develop the capacity to be responsible, respectful, decent men.
Fuck, it's good stuff.
Good stuff, bro.
Cheers, brother. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure.
Right on.
See you later, everyone.
Peace.